Chapter 284 Ghost Raider. As the capital city of Starmoon Kingdom, beneath the flourishing appearance of Starmoon City were piles and piles of pearly white bones. The moment Xueqi arrived at the city, he could already sniff out the strong smell of blood. When Xueqi walked the bustling streets of Starmoon City, none of the players he saw belonged to small and unknown guilds. Instead, all the guild players he saw belonged to third-rate guilds or above. As for the unrated guilds, Xueqi could make a general guess as to where they had gone. They had definitely been completely annexed by these large guilds. Furthermore, the average level of players in Starmoon City was very high. In terms of equipment, the players of Starmoon City were also a notch higher than the players of White River City. Originally, it was a very rare sight to find average players possessing bronze equipment. At Starmoon City, however, it was not a rare sight at all. Xueqi had even seen some independent players who possessed equipment of mysterious iron rank and above. As for the players who wore a guild emblem on them, majority of their equipment were of mysterious iron rank. Some elite members of guilds were even fully geared with mysterious iron equipment. The standards of Starmoon City were clearly a lot higher than White River Cities. However, if these players were to be compared to Xueqi, they would still be miles and miles behind. When Xueqi arrived in Starmoon City, he had removed his disguise of black flame. Instead, he had chosen to use his original appearance of Yi Feng to move around the city. Hence, he did not choose to hide the equipment he had on him right now. Although Xueqi had already turned off the innate glowing effect that dark gold equipment possessed, he was unable to do anything about the originally dashing appearance of the item itself. There was also the two weapons at his waist, the Abyssal Blade and the Demon Bane, whose quality could not be discerned through sight alone. Overall, Xueqi's equipment had caused all the players who walked past him to cast sidelong glances at him. Xueqi was just like a famous celebrity as he strolled along the streets of Starmoon City. It was impossible for him to keep a low profile even if he wanted to. However, Xueqi paid no attention to the stares he was receiving, focusing only on the task at hand. After arriving at Starmoon City, a new city, Xueqi first made a trip to the city's auction house by force of habit. He intended to gauge the market conditions of this entire city. As the capital city, Starmoon City was geographically located in the central region of Starmoon Kingdom. Hence, whether it was the northern, southern, western, or eastern region, all trade would pass through this place. In the past, during the peak of Starmoon Kingdom, Starmoon City controlled a full quarter of Starmoon Kingdom's trade volume. One could simply imagine how large the trade volume at Starmoon City was. If one could dominate Starmoon City, the daily profits one could rake in would be astronomical. In comparison, the Star Streak trading firm's daily profit of 1,600 to 1,700 gold coins was merely a trifling sum. With such a large trade volume available, it would be a lie to say that Xueqi did not have aspirations towards it. Unfortunately, Zero Wing had just recently set out on its journey. It would still be a long time before he could attempt to get a share of the pie known as Starmoon City. Today, Xueqi was simply here to lay the groundwork for his eventual entry into Starmoon City's market in the future. Starmoon City's auction house was also the largest auction house in Starmoon Kingdom. When players registered an item here, the item would also be available for the players in the surrounding tens of cities to purchase. It was much more amazing than the White River City auction house. Moreover, when players from another country wished to visit Starmoon Kingdom, or when players from the kingdom itself wished to head to another country, they would be required to make a transit through Starmoon City, as it was the capital city of the kingdom. This situation also led to players from other countries selling their wares at the Starmoon auction house. Hence, there was a very large variety of items available at the Starmoon auction house, and no other auction house in Starmoon Kingdom could ever dream of being its equal. This was also one of the reasons why many players would willingly come here to purchase or sell their items. The inside of the auction house was filled with a sea of players. After entering the building, Xueqi quickly looked for a quiet corner and sat down. He then called out the auction house interface, quietly browsing through its contents. Brother Blade, look at that person's amazing equipment. Although my eagle eye skill allows me to identify any weapon or equipment that is fine gold rank or below, when I tried identifying that person's stuff, many of them returned as unidentifiable. A skinny ranger said excitedly as he drooled at Xueqi's equipment. What? Unidentifiable? Don't tell me he's using dark gold equipment? Imperial Thunder. Did something go wrong with your skill? Let alone a player from an unknown guild. Even the guild leaders of Ouroboros and the Star Alliance wouldn't be able to possess so many dark gold equipment. The robust-looking berserker named Lifeless Blade argued, laughing. Brother Blade, you should know that this identification skill of mine is an advanced skill that I obtained only after completing a unique quest. When had it ever gone wrong before? The ranger named Imperial Thunder replied earnestly. Lifeless Blade nodded, his expression turning serious. He then looked towards Xueqi, who currently sat on a stone chair, noticing that he was actually unfamiliar with this person. Xueqi. He isn't an expert of Star Moon City. He should have come from some other city. After Lifeless Blade used an identification skill on Xueqi, he immediately knew that Xueqi was not a player belonging to Star Moon City. Lifeless Blade could be considered a somewhat famous person in Star Moon Kingdom. He had met many players before, and he had also met majority of the experts that could be found in the city. As for the experts he had yet to meet, he knew what they were called at the very least. Even so, he had never heard of an expert called Xueqi before. And yet, I seem to recall hearing this name, Xueqi, from somewhere. Lifeless Blade drifted into deep thought. I recall seeing this name on the official forums before. I wonder if I can still find it now. Thinking so, Lifeless Blade opened the official forums and started searching for information relating to a player called Xueqi. At this moment, Imperial Thunder used eagle eyes on the guild emblem hanging on Xueqi's chest. Instantly, a shocked expression surfaced on his face. Yet, immediately after, that shock turned into great excitement. Imperial Thunder, what happened to you? Lifeless Blade asked curiously. It was his first time seeing Imperial Thunder produce such an expression. In the past, Imperial Thunder did not react with such intensity, even when he saw a Lord-ranked field boss. Brother Blade, he's a member of Zero Wing. Imperial Thunder said excitedly. Zero Wing? Why would they be here? Lifeless Blade asked curiously. Nobody in Star Moon Kingdom had not heard of Zero Wing at this point. After all, it was the first guild in Star Moon Kingdom to possess its own guild residence. Moreover, there were plenty of experts in its midst. Even the top-ranking player in Star Moon Kingdom was a member of Zero Wing. Not only was this guild extremely mysterious, it also had Star Moon Kingdom's chief forger providing them with equipment. Countless players wished to join Zero Wing. Unfortunately, the guild was only recruiting members in White River City. Unless players from other cities migrated there, they would have no chance of joining it at all. At this moment, Lifeless Blade had also found some information relating to Xueqi on the forums. Aside from finding out that Xueqi was the author of the White River City guidebook, Lifeless Blade had also found some video recordings of Xueqi's battles. Of them, the video showing Xueqi's one-man battle against hundreds of Martial Union members was still ranked within the top 30 most viewed videos. The video had even been titled God-Ranked Swordsman's Instructional Video. So he is that God-ranked expert Xueqi. Lifeless Blade felt greatly surprised at this moment. He never imagined he would get the chance to meet such a great expert. While Lifeless Blade and Imperial Thunder were watching Xueqi, with his extraordinary 5 senses, had long since noticed his 2 observers. The interest these 2 players emitted was very strong. In addition, the fervor in their gazes made it hard for Xueqi not to notice them, even if he wasn't trying. And here I was, wondering who was spying on me. It turned out that it was Lifeless Blade and Imperial Thunder. Xueqi glanced at his 2 admirers, sending a faint smile at them. Xueqi had been looking forward to meeting these 2 famous players for a long time now. Before they had even started playing God's Domain, they were already a relatively famous independent party. In the gaming world, they had even been called the Sharp Arrow Party. After they entered God's Domain, they shone even more than before. In the past, the team they had formed managed to successfully raid plenty of team dungeons that even the main force of first-rate guilds were helpless against. Meanwhile, the team leader, Lifeless Blade, had also been nicknamed the Ghost Raider. Brother Blade, such a chance won't fall into our laps a second time. Why don't we go get acquainted with him? Who knows, we might even become friends, Imperial Thunder suggested to Lifeless Blade. Chapter 285. Market Research. Imperial Thunder's suggestion sent Lifeless Blade into a light contemplation. Soon after, Lifeless Blade replied with a nod. As the saying went, another friend is another opportunity. If one wished to succeed in a game, an extensive network of friends was necessary. It was especially true when it came to friends who were experts. If we are going to hastily approach and interrupt him like this, we need to be careful with our words when we speak. After all, every expert has their own unique personality. Some might be cheerful, some might be indifferent, and some might be arrogant. It would be counterproductive if we happened to accidentally provoke him, Lifeless Blade whispered. Ah, of course I know about this point. Imperial Thunder laughed. You do, huh? Lifeless Blade rolled his eyes at Imperial Thunder. He then continued, do you still remember how you managed to provoke Yuan Fei, one of the top 10 rookies of the gaming world, whom we met last time? That was his fault for going overboard. He actually tried to roll for every equipment we got from that boss. Imperial Thunder still held a grudge against the player called Yuan Fei. When they had discovered a Lord-ranked field boss before, they had kindly sent Yuan Fei an invite to raid the boss together. After the boss died, the loot the boss dropped was distributed using the dice rolling system, as more than a dozen players had participated in the raid. It was also logical that every team member would only roll for the items they needed. Yet, contrary to custom, Yuan Fei had rolled for every single item the boss dropped. Yuan Fei's actions clearly stated that, if he could not use it, then he could still sell it. You could have just spoken up about the matter. At worst, we could have just stopped contacting him. There was no need for us to become enemies. Yet, you chose to pick a fight with him without even trying to talk things out. That's not how you make friends. That's how you make enemies. Yuan Fei is still holding a grudge against us even until now. Lifeless Blade felt speechless when he recalled the incident back then. Yuan Fei was one of this year's top 10 rookies of the virtual gaming world, and the Star Alliance had even offered him an annual salary of 2 million credits in order to recruit him. Meanwhile, just because their team had provoked that petty-minded Yuan Fei, they had received plenty of oppression from the Star Alliance, making it hard for them to mingle in Starmoon City. If not for the fact that Lifeless Blade was acquainted with the guild leader of the Star Alliance, this matter would never have been settled, and their team would have been forced out of Starmoon City long ago. I understand. I won't repeat the same mistakes, Imperial Thunder said in a soft tone. In fact, he too recognized the mistake he made in the past. However, it was not easy for him to fix his short temper. As the two of them quietly conversed while they made their way towards Shifeng. Shifeng had already grasped the general market trend in Starmoon City. Overall, the items sold here were cheaper than White River City. In White River City, a stack of hard stones could be sold for 10 silver coins. At this place, however, each stack was being sold for only 9 silver coins. The same went for whetstones. In White River City, each stack of whetstones could be sold for 35 silver coins, while at this place, it was being sold for only 32 silver coins. Only advanced whetstones were sold at the same price in both cities, whereby each stack went for 1 gold coin. On the other hand, mysterious iron-ranked weapons and equipment sold here were at least 10% to 20% more expensive than the ones sold at White River City. As for secret silver-ranked weapons and equipment, those were sold at prices 30% to 40% higher. Sure enough, with more players around, the resources available is also greater in volume. Even though mysterious iron equipment is such a rare commodity in White River City, here in Starmoon City, these items seem to be available in abundance. There is someone actually selling secret silver equipment as well. As expected of the capital city, the number of experts here is much higher than other cities. Just by looking at the items being sold at the auction house, Shifeng could clearly feel the intensity of the competition at Starmoon City, with higher quality equipment in greater demand. It was also precisely this fierce competition that resulted in more experts being produced here. In order to survive in this city, one had to rack their brains and constantly think of ways to improve themselves, gradually climbing up the ranks of this prosperous city. Otherwise, what other explanation would there be for a precious secret silver equipment to appear at the auction house? It was simply impossible for guilds to sell any weapons or equipment that were of mysterious iron rank or better. After all, these items were strategic material for a guild. At most, they would sell the equipment produced by their own forgers. However, where would they find a forger who was capable of producing secret silver equipment? Even Shifeng, who possessed plenty of support items, could not easily produce them. It went without saying that other forgers should only be able to produce bronze equipment, or at best, mysterious iron equipment at this stage of the game. Hence, the secret silver-ranked weapons and equipment being sold at the auction house were definitely the offerings of independent teams. Meanwhile, their purpose in selling was simply to bolster their team's strength and obtain the funds necessary to cover their expenses. The number of independent teams that could obtain secret silver-ranked weapons and equipment at White River City could definitely be counted using one's fingers. As far as Xueqi knew, the only team capable of such a feat was the Holy Grail Knights that he had met by coincidence last time. On the other hand, there were a number of such independent teams in Star Moon City. One could just imagine the difference between the two cities. If I am going to try to enter Star Moon City's market, it seems that selling high-end equipment would be the most effective way to do so. At this moment, the fine gold-ranked dragon scale set equipment popped up in Xueqi's mind. He felt that it might not be a bad idea to rely on the dragon scale set equipment to break into Star Moon City's market. However, his current forging standards were still too low. Cream Coco was also only an advanced forging apprentice right now. She was still in the midst of striving to get promoted into a true forger. Moreover, another condition needed to be met if Xueqi wished to enter Star Moon City's market. Currently, Xueqi's guild was based only in White River City. If he were to establish a branch guild at Star Moon City at this period of time, that branch guild would immediately be annihilated by the many large guilds of Star Moon City. Hence, what Xueqi needed right now to enter Star Moon City's market was a shop to do business with. However, not to mention a shop, even if Xueqi wished to set up a stall, he first needed to become a minor noble of Star Moon City. As for establishing a shop, at the very least, he needed to become a baron before he could do so. As expected, if I don't deal with this shop issue, I won't have any way of entering Star Moon City's market at all. After all, the auction house's 15% processing fee was simply too expensive. More importantly, placing items at the auction house was something only independent teams or players would do. If one wished to have any sort of development and earn large sums of money and fame, a shop of their own was essential. Hello there, friend. I am called Lifeless Blade. Seeing that you have come to the auction house, I'm guessing that you are here to sell some equipment, right? I am somewhat well known in Star Moon City, and I have plenty of sales channels. If you wish to sell your equipment at a good price and its attributes are good, I can lend you a hand with selling them, Lifeless Blade said as he walked over, a smile on his face. Selling equipment? Xueqi took a look at his own get-up, discovering that the weapons and equipment he had on him were far better than what anyone else present inside the auction house had. From an observer's point of view, he definitely would not have any demands for the items sold at the auction house. In which case, the possibility of him coming to the auction house to sell some of his unwanted equipment was very high. After all, with so many good equipment on hand, there were bound to be some obsolete equipment that he needed to dispose of. Immediately, Xueqi shook his head, saying, "No, you misunderstand. I'm just here to take a look." "Sorry, it's my fault for misunderstanding," Lifeless Blade quickly said in embarrassment when he realized that he had acted too rashly. "In truth, I'm not trying to earn some middleman's fees. I'm just trying to make your acquaintance. This here is a brother of mine, Imperial Thunder." Imperial Thunder nodded in reply, his mind still slightly dazed, completely mesmerized by the elegant appearance of the Abyssal Blade and the Demon Bane when seen at such a close distance. Dark gold weapons. Even the guild leader of the Star Alliance, a first-rate guild, did not possess such powerful weapons. Imperial Thunder wondered just what kind of attributes such weapons could possess. Just how much did they surpass the secret silver weapon he wielded? Seeing his companion constantly staring at the weapons hanging at Xueqi's waist, the drool in Imperial Thunder's mouth nearly overflowing, Lifeless Blade immediately clapped Imperial Thunder's back. He then let out an awkward laugh as he said to Xueqi, "Please excuse him. He doesn't normally act this way." Xueqi had been playing God's Domain for many years now, and his eye for people was still quite accurate. Naturally, he could tell that the two players before him did not harbor any evil intentions in their hearts. They were really just trying to get acquainted with him. Furthermore, from the stories he'd heard about Lifeless Blade and Imperial Thunder in the past, he had quite a good grasp on the two's personalities. They were definitely not sinister, villainous people. Lifeless Blade was the calm and silent type. As for Imperial Thunder, although he was brash, he was a man of integrity. "No problem. I can tell that Brother Imperial is a straightforward man." Xueqi waved his hand, laughing. "Since Brother Blade wishes to become friends, it would be my honor to oblige." Lifeless Blade's eyes immediately glowed. He hadn't expected Xueqi to be so easy to get along with, having such an easygoing attitude. Hence, the two quickly started a conversation between themselves. When they touched on the topic of combat techniques, Xueqi thoroughly shocked Lifeless Blade with his words. Meanwhile, Lifeless Blade finally understood why the public would acclaim Xueqi a god-ranked expert. After conversing for more than half an hour, Xueqi managed to obtain a more detailed understanding of the situation at Star Moon City, thanks to Lifeless Blade. I've gained plenty from this discussion of ours. If not for Brother Yifeng, I'm afraid I wouldn't even know such a combat technique existed. This knowledge is simply priceless for dungeon raiding, Lifeless Blade said earnestly. He then retrieved a special tool from his back and presented it to Xueqi, saying, "This ring is the only item I can offer you as thanks. Brother Yifeng, please accept it. Otherwise, my conscience won't let me rest." Chapter 286. The Eternal Throne. Xueqi had not expected Lifeless Blade to be such a forthright person. Although Lifeless Blade had only taken out an ordinary-looking silver ring, Xueqi knew exactly how precious this item was. The reason being, not only had he seen this ring in the past, he had even owned one before. The ring was a space ring. It was a storage item. One could not judge it simply based on its mysterious iron rank. The space ring could store up to 200 slots of items. It was a very significant amount. It also did not impart any additional weight to the user, regardless of the number of items stored in it. However, this was still not the most important point about this ring. Instead, the space ring excelled the most when used during battle. Although it did not have many uses in a normal battle, when used in a fight between experts, a battlefield, or a boss battle, it could bring about game-changing effects. For example, if players wished to use magic scrolls or support items during a battle, they needed to first place their hands into their bags and search for their items before pulling those out. This entire process would waste much time. However, it was a different story if players possessed the space ring. With a simple thought, the item specified would instantly appear within the player's hands. The space ring was much more convenient than a bag. In reply to Lifeless Blade's offer, however, Xueqi shook his head and said, "This item is too valuable. I cannot accept it. Brother Yifeng, I am a man who never takes advantage of his friends. I'll feel extremely guilty if you don't accept it. Moreover, this ring is merely a storage item. It's not particularly valuable, so please accept it," Lifeless Blade said. "Well, how about this? I have a favor to ask of Brother Blade. I wonder, how many reputation points does Brother Blade have at Star Moon City right now?" Xueqi whispered, sighing. Lifeless Blade grew confused at Xueqi's question, failing to understand why Xueqi would ask him such a thing. However, he still chose to answer honestly. "I'm only 30 points away from becoming a minor noble of Star Moon City." As the capital city of Star Moon Kingdom, the reputation points of Star Moon City was the most difficult to earn out of all the cities in the kingdom. Even if Lifeless Blade and his team were amazing, they were still a distance away from becoming nobles of the city. 30 points. Xueqi sank into deep contemplation. He thought to himself, that's not a lot, I guess. If he completes those several quests, he should be able to get those points. "Must your favor require a noble to accomplish, Brother Yifeng?" Lifeless Blade asked. "Yeah." Xueqi nodded. Only by becoming a noble could one purchase a stall in Star Moon City. Also, exchanging of stalls could only be conducted between nobles of Star Moon City, in order to prevent players from taking advantage of any loopholes. However, Xueqi was a demon hunter. No matter where he went, he would still be treated like a noble. Hence, after Lifeless Blade purchased the stall, there would be no problems if he simply transferred ownership of the stall to Xueqi. In this way, Xueqi would have a stall in Star Moon City to officially sell his items. Originally, Xueqi had thought to complete a few quests in Star Moon City to increase his reputation here. However, it would not be easy to obtain 100 Star Moon City reputation points. He needed to invest plenty of time to do so. Meanwhile, Lifeless Blade had a trustworthy character, and it would be much faster to earn just 30 reputation points than to earn 100 reputation points. At first, Lifeless Blade felt ashamed for being unable to be of any help to Xueqi. However, Xueqi's next remark immediately sent him into a daze. "I know a few high-level quests that can increase reputation points. After Brother Blade completes them, you should be able to become a noble of Star Moon City. After saying so, Xueqi proceeded to list out the few quests he had in mind to Lifeless Blade, withholding nothing at all. This shouldn't be a good idea, right? Lifeless Blade was nearly left speechless. Originally, he had fully intended to help Xueqi. In the end, however, he had been the one to receive help from Xueqi instead. Currently, the many guilds in Star Moon City were desperately searching for quests that could increase one's reputation, holding back nothing to do so. However, even when they offered a huge reward for any related information, they still had no luck in finding any. Yet, Xueqi had just casually revealed to him 4 high-level quests that rewarded reputation points, his casual remarks making it seem as if these quests were plain cabbages that could be found anywhere. Is the difficulty of these quests too hard for you to manage? Xueqi suddenly came to a realization when he saw Lifeless Blade's troubled expression. I still know a few quests that reward reputation. However, as their difficulty is much lower, the reputation points rewarded is similarly low. You'll have to complete at least 7 or 8 of them in order to accumulate 30 points. Lifeless Blade's mind was an utter mess now. He even started to suspect Xueqi was a GM, to actually know of so many reputation quests in Star Moon City. However, Lifeless Blade quickly dispelled this notion from his mind. After all, God's domain was controlled by the main God system. Nobody else was allowed to interfere with the game. Hence, the quests in the game were auto-generated by the system, and nobody should know about them in advance. Of course, if there was an exception to this point, then that would be the extremely mysterious beta testers. However, after God's domain was officially released, many settings and quests in the game were changed. In theory, the quests that were originally present during the beta test should no longer exist. Thinking up to this point, Lifeless Blade was thoroughly confused by Xueqi's identity. Just how was he able to know so many things? Are you wondering why I know so much? Naturally, Xueqi could discern Lifeless Blade's doubts. Ah! Lifeless Blade silently nodded his head, making no attempt to hide his thoughts. It's because I am a reincarnated person. I returned to this time from 10 years into the future. Hence I know about all these quests, Xueqi said in full honesty. Brother Yifeng sure knows how to joke. Lifeless Blade abruptly burst into laughter. I'll complete these quests as quickly as possible. After I've managed to become a noble, I'll immediately notify Brother Yifeng. Lifeless Blade knew full well that everyone had their own secrets. Meanwhile, information on reputation quests would definitely be categorized as a top secret by guilds. Xueqi's willingness to reveal such precious information to him showed how much trust Xueqi placed in him. If Lifeless Blade still tried to probe deeper into the matter, then he would simply be too insensible. I'm telling the truth, Xueqi laughed bitterly. I know. Lifeless Blade nodded his head repeatedly, the smile on his face seemingly saying, I understand. Xueqi was left completely speechless. Although he had long since grown familiar with such a behavior, he still could not help but feel helpless every time he was faced with it. Why wouldn't anybody believe him even though he was telling the truth? Why must the world make an honest man like him tell a lie before somebody was willing to believe him? Xueqi was no longer able to make sense of this world. Soon after, Lifeless Blade added Xueqi as a friend before hurrying off to complete the quests. Meanwhile, thanks to Lifeless Blade, Xueqi now had a better understanding of Star Moon City's situation. After Lifeless Blade's departure, Xueqi hailed a horse carriage and headed to the War God's Temple of Star Moon City. He intended to continue carrying out his legendary ranked main storyline quest. The War God's Temple of Star Moon City was built beside the palace. From the outside, the building looked like a magnificent and majestic pyramid, and at the summit of this pyramid was a house-sized sunstone, which exuded a divine light. Be it day or night, this sunstone would shine brilliantly on the entire War God's Temple, and one couldn't help but admire this dazzling construction when seeing it. As the main branch of the War God's Temple, it had Tier 3 NPCs roaming around outside the temple itself, and even a Tier 5 Shadow Saint would not be able to penetrate the tight security here. Although this was not Xueqi's first time visiting this War God's Temple, it was still his first time coming to the 9th floor of the temple. The Eternal Throne. Just the NPC guiding Xueqi to this place was already a Tier 4 Glory Knight. In other cities, such an NPC would be an overlord-like existence that could cause others to tremble in fear. However, in this place, this NPC simply amounted to a guide. After entering the Eternal Throne, Xueqi immediately discovered 1 purple throne and 9 golden thrones suspended in the center of the room. On the sides were 50 silver thrones. Aside from the empty purple throne, every other throne was occupied by a person. Moreover, these people were all apex powerhouses of God's domain. A single step of theirs could send tremors throughout the entire continent. However, among all these people, only one of them had a real body. The others were simply phantoms. Sitting in their thrones, these powerhouses quietly observed Xueqi. Meanwhile, as the recipient of these gazes, Xueqi could not help but feel that his life was no longer in his hands. His body felt incomparably heavy under these stares, and his back was also already drenched in sweat. This was the imposing aura of a true apex powerhouse. It was not something Tier 4 classes could ever hope of equaling. As expected of one of God's domain's strongest powers. To think they actually have so many apex powerhouses in their midst. Xueqi was racked with emotion right now. Although he had played God's domain for over a decade, this was the first time he personally witnessed the War God's temple's true strength. What an interesting young man. However, I don't believe a little guy like you can accomplish that quest. This is something that involves the fate of the entire continent, after all. Since it is so, let us give this little guy a test. If he passes it, I believe that nobody here would have any other objections, right? A test? This lady likes it. Let's go with that. If he passes the test, I'll throw in my vote of support. If he fails, well, he'll already be dead at that point, so no punishment will be necessary. How are we going to test him? Obviously, we are going to activate the 12 trials. Ha ha ha. The 12 trials. I have only heard of it before and only treated it as a legend. The last time it was activated was more than 900 years ago. I didn't expect that I would be so lucky as to witness it being activated in my lifetime. I must really thank you, little guy. I do hope you can last a few rounds, though. Let this old man here widen my horizons. Chapter 287, 12 Trials. The occupants of the silver thrones voiced their opinions one after another, merrily deciding how they should deal with Xueqi. Standing a short distance from the golden doors of this chamber, Xueqi silently muttered, "Crap, don't players have any human rights?" However, Xueqi had no choice under the circumstances. The NPCs before him were all apex powerhouses of God's domain. Xueqi was merely an ant in their eyes. It would be fortunate if they even decided to give him a few extra glances, not to mention involve him in their discussion. At this moment, a youth garbed in white robes, one of the occupants of the silver thrones, moved and instantly appeared before Xueqi. Although this youth was simply standing in front of Xueqi, showing no animosity whatsoever to Xueqi, the formidable pressure Xueqi felt from him was much more overwhelming than what he'd felt from White River City's magistrate Weissman. This white-robed youth was none other than Eucharis, the Star Moon Temple Lord of the War God's Temple, whom Xueqi had been instructed to look for. Young man, we already know your reason for coming to this place. Although the Endless Abyss has indeed been unsealed, this is something that would have happened sooner or later. After all, no seal is eternal. In the face of time, everything is powerless. It is already good that the seal could suppress the Endless Abyss for hundreds of years. In the near future, we will join forces to suppress the Endless Abyss, preventing this matter from escalating. However, before we go and suppress it, we need to choose a person to collect the materials needed to reseal the Endless Abyss. However, this person must be a heaven-blessed person, and you just so happen to be one. Hence, we've decided to send you to collect the materials for us. Before we send you on your way, though, we need to first take a look at your potential. If you are no good, we will have no choice but to look for someone more suitable for the task. By heaven-blessed person, the NPC meant a player. In the NPC's settings, heaven-blessed people were immortal existences, as even if these individuals died, they could still revive shortly after. Hence, heaven-blessed people were the best candidates for collecting the materials needed for the seal. We have decided that your test will be the War God's Temple's 12 trials. You will be considered to have passed the test as long as you can clear 6 of the 12 trials. Of course, we won't make you go through the trials for nothing. As long as you can clear up to the second trial, you will be rewarded with 100 War God's Temple merit points. Also, the rewards will be doubled with every subsequent trial you clear. After you're done with a trial, You can use the treasury of the War God's Temple to exchange your merit points for treasures. You should know that the treasury of the War God's Temple contains the most treasure throughout God's domain. An ordinary secret silver ranked item only costs 200 merit points, while a fine gold ranked item costs 500 merit points. A dark gold ranked item costs 1,500 merit points. An epic ranked item costs 4,000 merit points. A fragmented legendary item costs 15,000 merit points. And lastly, a legendary item costs 60,000 merit points. If you have sufficient strength, you can even exchange for a divine artifact. However, that would require 200,000 merit points. While Eucharis was giving his explanation with a smile, Xueqi's heart was already pounding madly with excitement. Xueqi couldn't help but admit that a legendary ranked main storyline quest was indeed amazing. The highest ranked item Xueqi had seen before was only of legendary rank. He had only heard rumors about divine artifacts. He had never personally seen one before. Now that he had the chance to actually see one, his gains from this trip to the War God's Temple was already plenty. However, Xueqi knew his own limits. Even a legendary item was already a luxury for him, not to mention a divine artifact. Xueqi did not even dare fancy the notion of owning one. He would be satisfied as long as he could take a look at it. Just as Xueqi was imagining what a divine artifact looked like, Eucharis started chanting some incantations, while drawing complex divine runes with his fingers. After Eucharis finished chanting, a pair of large golden doors appeared before him. There were 12 scenes carved into the dazzling golden doors, and each scene told of a cruel battle. When the doors parted, a very ancient and violent aura gushed forth from within, as if there was a ferocious primordial beast housed beyond those doors. "Young man, the 12 trials lies beyond these gates. Go ahead," Eucharis said slowly as he pointed towards the golden doors. Xueqi nodded in reply. Step by step, he slowly walked towards and beyond the doors, soon vanishing from the eternal throne. "Ha ha ha, that little guy sure is brave. Doesn't he know that the 12 trials is the cruelest trial of the War God's Temple? Eucharis, you're a devious bastard yourself as well. You actually used such a temptation against that little guy. Moreover, you've only mentioned the abundant rewards he could gain, but not the penalty for death. The merit points needed for the divine artifact. Even after saving for an entire lifetime, this old man still hasn't collected the necessary amount. If he wishes to obtain the divine artifact, at the very least, he needs to clear the 11th trial. Ever since the War God's Temple was established, from ancient times until now, only one person has ever managed to do so. However, that great personage was a mighty god who had saved the entire continent in the past. This lady has read plenty of ancient texts relating to the 12 trials. According to the information in those ancient texts, the majority of the people that had entered the trial only managed to clear up to the 3rd or 4th trial. Meanwhile, the ones that were capable of clearing up to the 6th trial were as rare as a phoenix's feather and a cheelin's horn. Eucharis, your requirement for him sure is high. Collecting the 7 treasures is a matter of great importance. Without sufficient strength, how can he expect to gather all of them? Besides, we can't afford to waste any energy on a weak little ant. Just as the occupants of the silver thrones were having another round of discussions among themselves, one of the occupants of the golden thrones, who had remained silent throughout the prior discussion, finally spoke. This matter is decided. Just as Eucharis has said, the old monsters sealed within the endless abyss are becoming restless. We can't afford to waste too much energy on a single weakling. If he can pass the 6th trial, I will lend him a hand as well. As you command, my lord. The occupants of the silver thrones could not help but feel astonished when they heard one of the lords of the golden thrones speak. They never expected that this great personage would take action as well. This was a fortune that could not be obtained even if one begged for it. Soon after, Eucharis waved his hand, summoning a water screen into the eternal throne. The water screen that was suspended in mid-air showed the image of Xueqi, who was currently facing the 1st trial. Xueqi's current location was at the summit of a precipice. Aside from the 100-yard or so plateau available to him, he was surrounded on all sides by deep cliffs. In addition, the winds here were extremely violent, and a single misstep could send him plunging into the endless abyss. Xueqi quietly sat on a platform paved with stone slabs. Immediately, he discovered that, aside from the weapons and equipment he had on him, everything else he possessed was unusable. The powerful frost grenades could only lie quietly inside his bag. Even the magic scrolls Xueqi had prepared beforehand were completely useless, and the same went for recovery potions. Instantly, Xueqi's combat strength had been reduced sharply. It seems that these trials are meant to purely test my combat power. I wonder who my opponent will be. Xueqi took a look at his surroundings and failed to discover any monsters. He then thought to himself in bewilderment, "Don't tell me the monster is invisible?" Having thought up to this point, Xueqi immediately extended his 5 senses to their limits. Invisible monsters were not unusual in God's domain. In fact, some of the truly powerful monsters were even capable of serial teleportation. Meanwhile, inside the Eternal Throne, the big shots of God's domain were excitedly observing Xueqi's trial. After all, it had been close to a millennium since the 12 trials had last been activated. None of the occupants of the Silver Thrones were that old yet, so they were naturally very curious about the 12 trials. I wonder who will be his first opponent. Though there are no records about it in the ancient texts, I did hear that the creatures inside the 12 trials are all primordial beasts that are extremely ferocious. However, this is only the first trial. That little guy isn't even a Tier 1 swordsman yet, so the monster's strength should be barely within the Tier 1 realm. Look, something's flying over. Chapter 288. Continuous Clearance. Primordial Beasts. In the God's domain of today, these creatures were either extremely rare, or had long since gone extinct. They were beings that one would not normally see. Now that the 12 trials have been activated, Xueqi would also have the fortune of meeting one. If he were at any other location, it would be extremely hard for him to meet a primordial beast. Above the stage of the first trial, a blurred figure slowly descended from the skies, remaining unperturbed even in the face of the turbulent winds of this realm. This gigantic figure landed at the center of the stage, towering over the tiny Xueqi. With the upper body of an eagle and the lower body of a lion, this monster was none other than the king of the skies, a griffin. Griffin, elite rank. Level 20. HP 30. 000/30. 000. I didn't expect a griffin would be so big. Just its wingspan alone is over 20 meters. Xueqi did not hurry into action. Instead, he took his time carefully observing the griffin. He was currently within a trial. The monsters in here were completely different from their counterparts in the outside world. Not only would the monsters inside a trial possess a large variety of skills, their basic attributes would also be much higher. Most importantly, their intelligence would also be higher. They would not follow a set pattern when they fought. However, the griffin did not provide Xueqi with too much time to think. With a piercing cry, the griffin flapped its wings, generating a violent gale. Instantly, 2 tornadoes over 3 meters in height swept toward Xueqi, and where the blades of wind passed, everything shattered. Using a skill right off the bat? As expected, this griffin isn't an ordinary monster. Revealing a faint smile, Xueqi's figure flashed, swiftly withdrawing from the attack range of the 2 tornadoes. Following which, he activated silent steps, instantly appearing behind the griffin. Before the king of the skies could react, the pitch-black abyssal blade turned into multiple streaks of black, slashing down at the griffin's wings. Like snowflakes, the griffin's snowy white feathers fluttered onto the now blood-stained ground. Ayo! The griffin let out an agonized roar, damages of over -400 points appearing above its head, one after another. The attacks that achieved a critical hit had even dealt over -800 damage. Immediately afterward, Xueqi followed up with a level 10 chop, his sword slicing off a large chunk from one of the griffin's wings, completely crippling it. Meanwhile, the griffin instantly lost over 1,900 HP from the attack. From this short exchange, the griffin had already lost 16% of its total HP. Furthermore, with one of its wings now crippled, it could not fly even if it wanted to. The gap in strength was obvious in a single glance. Against a Xueqi who had over 200 points in agility, a flightless griffin would only amount to a sitting duck. Following which, Xueqi constantly shuttled around the griffin, sending streak after streak of black radiance stabbing into the griffin's body. However, Xueqi only used basic attacks throughout all this. This way he would not be affected by the awkward movements consequent to using a skill, which would hinder his ability to dodge. Moreover, Feng's attacks were extremely accurate. Every one of his attacks would land either on a vital point of the griffin or at a joint that would affect the griffin's movements, making it even harder for the griffin to strike him. Although every hit Feng landed only caused around -400 damage, after a dozen or so seconds passed, the ferocious griffin fell. System: Griffin defeated. First trial completed. Rewarding 100,000 EXP and 5 free mastery points. Proficiency of all skills increased by 50 points. System: First trial cleared. Do you wish to start the next trial? The trial even rewards free mastery points? How wonderful! When Feng saw the rewards he received, a faint smile appeared on his face. After sheathing the Abyssal Blade and the Demon Bane back into their scabbards, he clicked yes to start the next trial. Although the monsters of the trial were indeed powerful, they were barely worth mentioning when compared to Feng's attributes and equipment. He cleared it, and with such ease as well. Not bad. Although he hasn't yet officially become a Tier 1 swordsman, his combat power is already at that tier. It is only natural that he is able to kill the griffin. If this continues, he should be able to get through the first 3 trials without any problems. From the 4th trial onwards, however, things won't be as easy anymore. That's right. The 12 trials would undergo a change in level once every 3 trials. The monsters would also receive a huge increase in combat power between levels. The 1st to 3rd trials will be basic level, while the 4th to 6th trials will be intermediate level, the 7th to 9th trials will be the advanced level, and the 10th to 12th trials will be the peak level. My bet is that the kid will hit his limit once he reaches the 5th trial. The people within the Eternal Throne were all apex powerhouses, and their eyes were well tempered by experience. After watching only one of Feng's battles, they could already make a relatively clear judgment. Indeed, just like the big shots of the War God's Temple had guessed. The stage for the 2nd trial was a Sylvan setting, and Feng's opponent this time was the moon-howling silver wolf. Inside a forest, this monster was an alpha predator. Similar to the griffin, the moon-howling silver wolf was a level 20 elite monster with 30,000 HP. Although it, too, was a Tier 1 primordial beast, unlike the griffin, the moon-howling silver wolf was much stronger on land. Its physical attacks were much more powerful, and its reaction speed was also much faster than the griffin's. However, as if to replicate the scene from the 1st trial, Feng immediately activated Silent Steps and arrived at the hind leg of the moon-howling silver wolf. Again, similar to the time with the griffin, Feng slashed his swords down at the wolf's hind legs, crippling them and greatly reducing the monster's movement speed. Following which, Feng simply kite the moon-howling silver wolf with a blazing meteor. Before 30 seconds had passed, the moon-howling silver wolf fell. System: Moon-howling silver wolf defeated. 2nd trial completed. Rewarding 300,000 EXP and 10 free mastery points. Proficiency of all skills increased by 50 points. System: 2nd trial cleared. Do you wish to start the next trial? Immediately after, a golden glow surrounded Feng's body, signifying his rise to level 19. Feng then placed all 6 of his newly obtained free attribute points into strength, increasing the attribute to 180 points and activating basic destructive power, the hidden passive skill for strength. Now, Feng's bare hands were capable of destroying a bronze-ranked item. In other words, Feng's unarmed attacks could damage bronze-ranked weapons and equipment, reducing their durability, and eventually destroying them. Originally, Feng had intended to place all 6 of his free attribute points into intelligence. However, he wanted to increase his combat power for the sake of the trial, even if it was only by a small amount. Soon after, Feng clicked yes and started the next trial. The 3rd trial's monster was a blue-eyed spider, while the stage for the 3rd trial was a location completely befitting a spider, inside a dark cave. Fortunately, there was no change to the blue-eyed spider's level despite Feng's rise to level 19. Similar to the previous 2 monsters, it was a level 20 elite monster with 30,000 HP. However, the blue-eyed spider was much stronger than the moon-howling silver wolf, though not in terms of attack power and movement speed. Instead, the blue-eyed spider had its highly potent venom and its tough and sticky silk. It also possessed superb eyesight. Even if its surroundings were pitch black, the blue-eyed spider would still be able to see clearly, as if it were daytime. Moreover, Its eyes also provided it with a 360-degree field of vision without any gaps in between. Xueqi carefully looked around. Even if he possessed extraordinary strength, his range of visibility was limited to a maximum range of 5 yards. Meanwhile, the blue-eyed spider could easily spot any attempt Xueqi made to attack from a distance of 30 to 40 yards, making the situation extremely unfavorable for Xueqi. Interesting. However, Xueqi did not show any signs of panic. On the contrary, his lips curled up slightly. If it were any other player here, they might have to fight a bitter battle if they did not possess any supportive tools. Unfortunately, not me. Suddenly, a deep blue flame appeared in Xueqi's hand, lighting up the surrounding area. The scorching flame also caused the freezing temperatures inside the cave to rise sharply. Nevertheless, this was still not the end. The ice-blue devil flame in Xueqi's hand quickly expanded and enveloped his body, completely covering him in a layer of deep blue flames. At this moment, Xueqi looked just like a god of fire, the flames on his body brightly illuminating the entire cave. Meanwhile, the blue-eyed spider's position had also been clearly revealed. Chapter 289, Silver-Eyed Lion King. The blue-eyed spider lived in darkness all year round. Hence, its eyes, which were accustomed to the dark, could not adapt at all when the dazzling flame suddenly illuminated the entire cave. The blue-eyed spider was just like a frightened little rabbit. Suddenly, the blue-eyed spider, which had previously had the upper hand, was placed in an unfavorable situation. On the other hand, Xueqi, who had summoned the ice-blue devil flame, could now deal 20% more damage, and his fire and ice-type attacks would also have an additional 40% damage, instantly breaking out of his disadvantageous position. While the blue-eyed spider was still incapacitated, Xueqi used silent steps and arrived over 20 yards behind the 8-legged monster. With the power of thunder and flames coating its length, the abyssal blade smashed into the blue-eyed spider's body. -1,836. A frightening amount of damage appeared above the blue-eyed spider's charred head. The attack had also placed it in a fainted state for 4 seconds. Xueqi then followed up the attack with a thundering flash and a normal attack. -634, -1,751, -1,087, -1,169. After suffering this series of attacks, the blue-eyed spider finally broke out of its stupor. However, it only had 72% of its HP remaining now. The blue-eyed spider was furious. Rotating its body, it spat a stream of dark green venom at Xueqi. Having long since anticipated such an attack, Xueqi swiftly dodged to the side, avoiding the attack completely. He then activated Windwalk and escaped. Xueqi knew full well how frightening the blue-eyed spider could be. Its venom attack just now was merely the tip of the iceberg. The deadliest feature of the monster was the poisonous gas emitted by its venom. If he stood his ground to fight the blue-eyed spider, the end result would be obvious. He would inevitably die of poisoning. Meanwhile, Xueqi's purpose in using Thundering Flash on the blue-eyed spider was simply to inflict the damage amplification effect on the monster. He would then kite it using the blazing meteor. Shortly after, one by one fiery red needles streaked through the air and pierced the blue-eyed spider's body. Although the blue-eyed spider was very skilled at dodging and blocking attacks, Xueqi still managed to land 2 out of every 3 hits thanks to precision throw, the special skill he obtained back at the Steel Fortress Barusha. Moreover, his attacks would occasionally trigger the quadruple phantom effect of the blazing meteor, instantly causing 4-600 damages to appear above the blue-eyed spider. When his luck was good, he would also trigger the burning flames effect. When the effect stacked up to 5 times, combined with the amplification effects of the ice-blue devil flame, the debuff caused -1,600 damage every second to the blue-eyed spider. The damage of this debuff was even higher than Xueqi's melee damage. However, such an occurrence was only natural. Although magic weapons were amazing, before they were fully released, they would still be far from comparable to a pseudo-extraordinary item. Meanwhile, aside from venom attack, the only other ranged attack the blue-eyed spider possessed was Silk Bind. However, these 2 skills were simply superfluous when used against Xueqi. Xueqi simply made an effortless sidestep to dodge these attacks, and with a flick of his wrist, he would send yet another needle into the blue-eyed spider. Following which, the blue-eyed spider's HP bar constantly decreased. 62%, 45%, 33%, 20%. Within a few moments, the blue-eyed spider died at Feng's hands as well. System: Blue-eyed spider defeated. Third trial completed. Rewarding 1 million EXP and 10 free mastery points. Proficiency of all skills increased by 100 points. System: Third trial cleared. Do you wish to start the next trial? 1 million EXP just for clearing the third trial? The system sure is generous. The difficulty for the first 3 trials isn't that high though. It seems that the truly difficult part would start from the 4th trial onwards. I should take a rest and get my mental state back to peak condition for now. Despite having effortlessly cleared the first 3 trials, Feng did not believe, even for a second, that a legendary ranked main storyline quest could be so easily completed. Although Feng did not possess a good understanding of the 12 trials, it was still established as one part of a legendary quest. Its difficulty would definitely be high. The passing requirement was for Feng to clear up to the 6th trial. Yet, the difficulty of the first 3 trials was not particularly high. According to combat power, the monsters Feng had faced were only at the basic level of a Tier 1 monster. Hence, the truly difficult part was definitely the 4th to 6th trials. Feng had always been a careful person. Hence, he intended to make ample preparations. Inside the Eternal Throne, the many Apex powerhouses there had been slightly surprised by Feng's battle. That was a Tier 2 mysterious flame, the Ice Blue Devil Flame. It seems that the kid is still hiding his strength. It seems he really does have a chance at clearing the 6th trial. Based on his current strength, from the 4th trial onwards, he should be facing intermediate-level Tier 1 primordial beasts. In terms of combat power, the kid is already at the intermediate level of Tier 1. Since the primordial beast that would appear in the 6th trial will be at the peak of intermediate Tier 1, he should have a 30% chance of defeating it with his current combat power. The big shots sitting in the silver thrones unanimously acknowledged Feng's potential. After resting for more than 10 minutes, Feng discovered an interesting matter. Although he could not use any potions or magic scrolls, he could still eat food made from cooking to boost his attributes. It was a good choice to let Violet Cloud continue pursuing the chef subclass. Feng smiled. After Zero Wings Workshop was established, Feng had given Violet Cloud a very high salary. The salary was much higher than what Violet Cloud earned from selling her cooking products. There was no need for her to continue on the path of a chef. However, Violet Cloud had chosen to continue cooking, giving the reason that it had already become a habit of sorts. Moreover, Violet Cloud herself loved cooking, and currently, she was already an advanced chef. She was not far away from being promoted to a master chef. Now, not only could the delicious steak she cooked increase the consumer's HP regeneration rate while in a non-combat state, it could also provide an additional buff that increased the consumer's strength by 10% for 10 minutes. To others, a 10% increase in the strength attribute might not amount to much. However, to Feng, who currently had 180 points in strength, that would mean an additional 18 points in strength, which was also equivalent to an additional 36 points in attack power. Overall, the effect of the delicious steak provided Feng with a significant increase in combat power. After Feng was rested, he clicked yes to start the 4th trial. Soon after, Feng was teleported to a grassy plain. Taking a look at his surroundings, Feng quickly discovered a lion with a golden mane lazily sprawled across a large boulder, its stout tail swishing around in a leisurely manner. However, Feng's arrival had obviously alerted it. When this golden-maned lion stood up, its height exceeded 5 meters. A chill flashed in the lion's silver eyes as it raised its eyelids. In the next moment, the lush green grass beneath its paws was frozen solid. The grassy plains had also been instantly transformed into an icy hell, the green landscape turning snow-white. Silver-Eyed Lion King, Special Elite. Level 20. HP 100, 000/100, 000. The difficulty of the 4th trial was clearly much greater than the 3rd trial. Amazing! As expected of the primordial beast of the 4th trial, it is actually capable of affecting its surroundings, transforming its environment into the ideal territory for it to fight in. Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Even with his 10 years of experience playing God's Domain, Feng had very rarely encountered such a monster. However, the icy hell had minimal effect on Feng. After activating the ice blue devil flame, the icy hell instantly returned to its original state. Just like that, the silver-eyed lion's environmental advantage was easily vanquished by Xueqi. Although the silver-eyed lion had lost its advantage, its innate strength and destructive power was still high. With a swipe of its paws, a large pit was formed in the grassland and gravel flew all over the place. Before Xueqi could get a good grasp of the situation, he was hit by the shockwave ensuing from the impact of its claws and instantly lost 621 HP. What terrifying strength! Just the shockwave of its attack could already deal over -600 damage to me. If I received a direct hit from its claws, the damage will definitely be in the thousands. Although Xueqi had been caught off guard by the silver-eyed lion, he did not freeze in place. Immediately, he activated Windwalk and escaped. If he fought a direct battle against the silver-eyed lion, there was no question that he would die. Although Xueqi could avoid the silver-eyed lion's claws in a head-on confrontation, if its claws battered the ground just like before, the resulting shockwave would propagate over at least an 8-yard radius. Xueqi would have no way of dodging the shockwave at all. Also, Xueqi only had a little more than 2,400 HP in total. He would last only a few hits at best. Chapter 290. Simultaneous Advancement. The silver-eyed Lion King roared furiously when it saw Xueqi running away. Focusing its eyes on Xueqi, the silver-eyed Lion King abruptly pushed against the ground with its robust and powerful legs. Like a violent gale, its body shot forth directly at Xueqi. Unfortunately for it, in terms of speed, Xueqi had a clear advantage over the silver-eyed Lion King. The distance between Xueqi and the silver-eyed Lion King gradually grew as the chase continued. However, if Xueqi started his kiting maneuver, the silver-eyed Lion King would quickly close this distance. Under a situation where he was not allowed to use potions to recover his HP, Xueqi's only recovery method was his innate battle recovery. However, he would only recover 1% of his HP every 5 seconds. Based on Xueqi's total HP, he would only recover around 24 HP every 5 seconds. If he wished to recover the 600 plus HP he'd lost, he needed to spend a relatively long period of time to do so. Fortunately, I'm a tad faster than it. The stage this time also covers a large area, so I can run around without any worries. Otherwise, I will really lose my life this time. Xueqi sent a casual glance at the silver-eyed Lion King, while majority of his attention was focused on the surrounding terrain. God's Domain was different from other virtual reality games in that it was much more realistic than the others. One could say that a player's combat power was responsible for only around 50% of a battle's outcome. Meanwhile, 40% was due to environmental factors, while the remaining 10% was up to luck. Luck was something filled with uncertainties, so there was no need to place much consideration into it. As for the 50% combat power and 40% environmental factors, how much a player could grasp them was an important indicator of how skilled a player was. A normal expert could only exhibit around 50% of their personal combat power. In God's Domain, the main God system would be the one responsible for evaluating and making the final judgment on a player's personal combat power. This method of calculation was the most credible way to judge a player's personal combat power. As to how it was calculated, only the main God system knew this. Currently, however, the main God system would not show players how much their personal combat power was, and how much of it they could actually exhibit. Once the first 100-man team dungeon was successfully raided, the second evolution of God's Domain would be activated. After the second evolution, a teleportation gate to the Divine Colosseum would appear in every city. When players entered the Divine Colosseum, they could compete and battle against other players there. Not only could they obtain equipment there, they could also upgrade and improve their combat techniques. It was also due to this reason that the fights in God's Domain became extremely popular. As more time passed, the popularity of fights in God's Domain would even grow to surpass that of the fighting competitions in the real world. Those who were capable of exhibiting over 50% of their personal combat power would be considered normal experts. Meanwhile, players that could exhibit over 60% would be considered second-rate experts. Once a player could exhibit 70%, they would be considered first-rate experts. If one could exhibit more than 85% of their personal combat power, then they would be considered apex experts. A majority of the players within this category were famous experts of God's Domain, and they would often participate in the international competition that was held only once a year by the developers of God's Domain. They were, without a doubt, the most popular individuals in God's Domain. Back in the days when Xueqi was still a Tier 3 Sword King, although he was not comparable to these great experts of God's Domain, he had still been categorized a first-rate expert since he could exhibit around 80% of his personal combat power. However, compared to exhibiting his personal combat power, Xueqi was much stronger in terms of observing and utilizing his surroundings. Currently, in terms of combat power, Xueqi was about equal to the Silver-Eyed Lion King. However, the Silver-Eyed Lion King's HP was many times greater than Xueqi's. Without taking into consideration the environmental factors, Xueqi would definitely die if he chose to clash head-on with the Silver-Eyed Lion King. If Xueqi had met the Silver-Eyed Lion King under normal circumstances, he would simply accept his death. At worst, he would just lose a single level. However, the current situation he was in did not allow him to do so. This was a trial given by his quest. There was no second chance for him, and his death would also signify the end of the quest. Hence, he absolutely could not die right now. After running for over a dozen minutes, Xueqi arrived at a hill. As for the Silver-Eyed Lion King, it was still far from catching up to Xueqi. Xueqi wandered around this hill for a while and eventually discovered a cliff. Immediately, Xueqi's eyes glowed and his lips curled up in a smile. At last, I found the key to victory. Xueqi chuckled lightly. He then activated Windwalk, dashing towards the edge of the cliff. Originally, Xueqi could have used this period of time to increase the gap between him and the Silver-Eyed Lion King even further. However, Xueqi chose not to do so because he wanted to find a favorable terrain to deal with the Silver-Eyed Lion King. A minute later, Xueqi stood at the edge of the cliff. Below him was a large gorge. This height should be sufficient. Xueqi made some mental calculations and felt that his plan was feasible. After several more seconds passed, the Silver-Eyed Lion King finally caught up. Just as the Silver-Eyed Lion King leapt into the air, its razor-sharp claws about to slash Xueqi's head, Xueqi jumped, dodging the attack completely. In the next moment, the Silver-Eyed Lion King's paws smashed into the cliff. Boom! The ground beneath Xueqi and the Silver-Eyed Lion King was destroyed, both man and beast plunging towards the very bottom of the cliff. Just as Xueqi's body was about to hit the ground, he activated gravity liberation, his body instantly becoming as light as a feather. Immediately, Xueqi's rate of descent dropped sharply. The Silver-Eyed Lion King, on the other hand, was not as fortunate. When its body hit the ground, a large crater was formed from the impact. Still not dead? You're quite durable, aren't you? Xueqi commented as he looked at the Silver-Eyed Lion King that was embedded into the ground. Right now, the Silver-Eyed Lion King only had a thread of its HP left. You've already dug your own grave, so you might as well stay in it. Xueqi unceremoniously sent a thundering flash at the monster. 3 arcs of lightning streaked into the Silver-Eyed Lion King, taking away its remaining 1,000 or so HP. Before, if Xueqi had chosen to jump down the cliff first, the Silver-Eyed Lion King definitely wouldn't have followed suit. Its intelligence was not that low after all. Instead, it would simply have taken a detour down the cliff. Hence, Xueqi had chosen to borrow the Silver-Eyed Lion King's immense destructive power to destroy the edge of the cliff. That way, there was no doubt the Silver-Eyed Lion King would be caught unawares. System: Silver-Eyed Lion King defeated. 4th trial completed. Rewarding 3 million EXP, 20 free mastery points, and 10 gold coins. Proficiency of all skills increased by 300 points. System: 4th trial cleared. Do you wish to start the next trial? 3 million EXP? Isn't this reward a little too lavish? Xueqi was immediately shocked by the system's reward. He had only recently risen to level 19. Yet, now, he was already close to welcoming level 20. Moreover, after the 4th trial, Xueqi's War God's Temple merit points were already at 700 points. He could now afford to exchange for 1 fine gold ranked item and 1 secret silver ranked item. And as long as he cleared the 5th trial, he could obtain another 800 merit points. The points in that round alone trumped those from all the previous rounds combined. He would then be able to afford to exchange for either 1 dark gold ranked item or 3 fine gold ranked items. After a short rest, Xueqi clicked yes again and started the 5th trial. The stage of the fifth trial was set in a desert. Meanwhile, the primordial beast that would serve as his opponent in this trial was a monstrosity that had the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and a snake as its tail. The moment this monster noticed Xueqi's entry into its territory, its crimson-red eyes immediately squinted, a hint of excitement leaking out from them. Chimera! Xueqi was surprised. Without even needing to use observing eyes on the monster before him, Xueqi already knew what it was. After all, he had fought this monster countless times in the past. A chimera was the final boss of a 100-man team dungeon. In the past, Xueqi and the team he led had suffered defeat after defeat under the hands of the chimera. Only after experiencing innumerable team wipes did they manage to finally kill it. Hence, Xueqi had a very deep impression of chimeras. Chimera, Special Elite. Level 20. HP 120. 000/120, 000. The chimera was a monster Xueqi was extremely familiar with. Xueqi knew both the strengths and weaknesses of a chimera like the back of his hand. A chimera could spit fire from its mouth, and its strength was comparable to the silver-eyed Lion King. Meanwhile, the snake that acted as the chimera's tail was equivalent to another monster entirely. The snake boasted powerful venom attacks. If players were struck by the chimera's flames after being poisoned by its tail, they would die with 100% certainty. However, the chimera also possessed a fatal weakness: poison. Xueqi immediately activated Windwalk. Faced with the chimera's sharp claws and venom attacks, Xueqi chose only to dodge and not retaliate. After the venom spat out by the chimera's tail started spreading and emitting a poisonous gas into the surroundings, Xueqi finally took action. Without hesitation, Xueqi charged into the poisonous fog, with the chimera following closely behind him. The moment Xueqi stepped into the poisonous fog, he was inflicted with a poison debuff, losing 200 HP every second. However, Xueqi paid no mind to the debuff. After he ran out of the poisonous fog, he spun his body around and threw the blazing meteor. When the blazing needle entered the poisonous fog, the vivid green fog instantly turned into a dark green. Immediately after, an explosion occurred. The explosion promptly sent the chimera, which was still standing inside the poisonous fog, flying. The monster lost over 10,000 HP from the explosion, and it was placed in a momentary crippled state. Taking advantage of this change, Xueqi launched a barrage of attacks at the chimera. By the time the chimera had recovered from its crippled state, Xueqi had already taken an additional 6,000 or so HP away from it. Furious, the chimera charged at Xueqi, while the latter started evading the chimera's attacks once more, biding his time while he waited for the next poisonous fog to form. After repeating this process several times, the battle finally came to an end. Although Xueqi had only around 400 HP remaining, the chimera had already fallen at his feet. System: Chimera defeated. Fifth trial completed. Rewarding 6 million EXP, 20 free mastery points, and 10 gold coins. Proficiency of all skills increased by 300 points. System: Fifth trial cleared. Do you wish to start the next trial? Immediately, Xueqi's experience bar rose to 62% of level 20. He was not far away from reaching level 21. Although Xueqi was slightly stronger now after allocating his free attribute points, he still felt that the next trial would be extremely dangerous. If not for the fact that Xueqi was familiar with the chimera's habits, he would have definitely died in the fifth trial. Meanwhile, the monster in the sixth trial would definitely be much stronger than the chimera. It would be fortunate if the monster that appeared in the sixth trial was something Xueqi was familiar with. However, what would he do if it was a monster he had never seen before? Most likely, death would be his only ending. Xueqi would not rely on luck to decide such an important matter for him. Hence, Xueqi did not immediately start the sixth trial after he was rested this time. Instead, he called out his attribute panel, choosing to use the free mastery points he had reserved all this time. One-handed sword mastery. Intermediate apprentice swordsman. Mastery points required: 50. Damage when using a one-handed weapon increased by 15%. Advanced apprentice swordsman. Mastery points required: 100. Damage when using a one-handed weapon increased by 20%. Basic swordsman. Mastery points required: 150. Damage when using a one-handed weapon increased by 30%. There is a 5% chance for a qualitative change to occur. Intermediate Swordsman. Mastery points required. 200. Damage when using a one-handed weapon increased by 40%. There is a 10% chance for a qualitative change to occur. Normally, even after players were promoted into a Tier 1 swordsman, their one-handed sword or two-handed sword mastery would only be at the intermediate apprentice swordsman rank. Meanwhile, Xueqi had received a total of 65 free mastery points from clearing the first 5 trials. In addition to the points he had received from completing quests and the points that were rewarded once every 5 levels, he now had a total of 168 unused free mastery points. After Xueqi used up all his free mastery points, his one-handed sword mastery had reached the rank of a basic swordsman. However, Xueqi was still not satisfied with this result. Following which, he retrieved the level 20 dark gold ranked Purgatory Shadow, which he had previously bought at the Blackwing auction house, from his bag and swapped out the level 15 Demon Bane. Let's start the devouring process then. Xueqi looked at the pitch-black abyssal blade in his hand. He then offered the 10 level 15 mysterious iron weapons, which he had prepared at an earlier date, and the level 15 Demon Bane as sacrifices to upgrade the abyssal blade. Although it was unfortunate that he did not possess 10 level 15 secret silver weapons to use as a sacrifice, the legendary quest was of utmost importance. He could not afford even the slightest misstep, and it was necessary for him to utilize all available avenues. Chapter 291. The Beginning of Greatness. In order to increase the abyssal blade's potential, Xueqi had intended to gather 10 level 15 fine gold weapons to serve as a sacrifice. Hence, he had deliberately kept the abyssal blade at level 10 all this time. Now, however, he no longer had the leeway to do so. The abyssal blade started exuding a dark fog, which immediately charged at the sacrificial weapons Xueqi had prepared. Within 3 seconds, even the incomparably hard Demon Bane, a dark gold-ranked one-handed sword, had been turned into dark fog and was absorbed by the abyssal blade. After the abyssal blade had finished devouring the sacrificial weapons, the weapon was no longer completely pitch-black in appearance. Golden divine runes appeared on the blade of the sword, giving off a faint golden glow. Meanwhile, the entire blade itself had also become silvery gray. When Xueqi casually brandished the abyssal blade, slashing it through the air, the feeling he got was like he was cutting a transparent sheet of paper. Sharp! Xueqi looked at the abyssal blade in his hand, astonishment filling his eyes. If he combined such sharpness with the basic destructive power passive skill, even without the ice blue devil flame, he could still easily destroy mysterious iron-ranked weapons and equipment. Secret silver-ranked items would also last only a while longer. Abyssal blade, one-handed sword, magic weapon. Attack power plus 211. All attributes plus 25. Attack speed plus 8. Ignore levels plus 8. Attacks have 35% chance to cause 200% damage. 10% chance to cause 300% damage. 20% chance to induce Doom Curse, reducing all attributes by 40% for 30 seconds. If wielder belongs to any swordsman-related class, all skill levels plus 3. Increase free ability points received for every increase in level by 2 points. Equipment level 15. Can be upgraded. Devour 10 level 20 mysterious iron weapons and 1 level 20 secret silver weapon to upgrade to level 20. Can be evolved, unknown. Additional skill 1. Phantom Kill. Instantly creates a doppelganger. You can control this doppelganger. Doppelganger will have 55% of original body's attributes and all skills. At the same time, doppelganger and the original body can be swapped. Duration: 40 seconds. Cooldown: 5 minutes. Additional skill 2. Abyssal Bind. Binds enemies and prevents movement, reducing defense by 100%. Duration: 3 seconds. Cooldown: 1 minute. Additional skill 3. 9 Dragon Slash. Instantly creates 9 phantoms of the abyssal blade for wielder to use. Each phantom sword is capable of dealing up to 30% damage. Duration: 30 seconds. Cooldown: 5 minutes. Additional skill 4. Dark Violent Dance. 45% of the total damage dealt to the target spreads in a cone-shaped area towards targets within a distance of 12 yards. Duration: 30 seconds. Cooldown: 1 minute. The Abyssal Blade was personally created by Master Smith Ollis's using the Black Dragon King's fangs as material. It is one of 36 famed swords, and it is ranked 31st. However, this sword has been cursed by the Black Dragon King. Aside from providing the wielder with immense strength, there will be a backlash every period of time. However, after being remodeled by Jack using a star crystal, the strength of the backlash has been greatly reduced. If the wielder is unable to suppress the backlash, the wielder will receive the curse of the Black Dragon King, permanently reducing all attributes by 50%. Unable to be dropped. Unable to be traded. As expected of a magic weapon. Even though only 10 mysterious iron weapons and 1 dark gold weapon were used as its sacrifice, its new attack power is even higher than a dark gold weapon of the same level. This attack power could already rival a dark gold ranked two-handed sword. Xueqi smiled in satisfaction. The level 15 dark gold ranked Demon Bane only had 183 attack power. Meanwhile, the Abyssal Blade had 211 attack power. It was far stronger than the Demon Bane. Not to mention, the other attributes and skills of the Abyssal Blade had also received a significant improvement from the upgrade this time around. Unfortunately, the Abyssal Blade was still far from being a match for the Purgatory's Shadow, a level 20 dark gold ranked one-handed sword. Purgatory's Shadow, one-handed sword, dark gold rank. Level 20, can be upgraded twice. Attack power plus 273. Strength plus 30, agility plus 25, endurance plus 22. Attack speed plus 2. Attacks have 20% chance to cause 300% damage. 10% chance to reduce damage dealt by target by 20%. Effect not stackable. Additional skill dash. Purgatory power. When activated, increases attack speed by 100% and damage dealt by 30% for 15 seconds. Cooldown: 2 minutes. However, this could not be helped. Level 20 weapons and equipment were essentially more powerful than level 15 ones. At level 20, players could take the promotion to become a Tier 1 class. Hence, level 20 weapons and equipment would all be significantly stronger. Although the attack power has improved greatly, it won't be enough to get me through the 6th trial. Xueqi knew that a player's combat power could not simply be measured through their attack power alone. An increase in attack power only meant that the damage players dealt would be higher than before. Meanwhile, combat power was the synthesis of various other factors such as strength, agility, endurance, and other basic attributes. Skill level was also a factor to consider. Even if Xueqi multiplied his current attack power by 3 to 4 times, his HP would still be tens of times lower than the monster in the 6th trial. If he could not dodge the monster's attacks, he would still lose his life after taking a few hits. So, an increase in attack power would not bring too great an increase to his overall combat power. A player was just like a wooden bucket that was used to collect water. How strong they were depended not on their strengths but their weaknesses. Xueqi called out the system interface. As Eucharis had already opened up the exchange system of the War God's Temple's treasury for Xueqi, he could now directly exchange his merit points through the system. Xueqi immediately used 1,500 merit points to exchange for a level 20 dark gold weapon. He then took out another 10 level 20 mysterious iron weapons from his bag. There were plenty of mysterious iron weapons stored inside the guild warehouse. Moreover, during the past few days, while Xueqi, Aqua Rose, and Fire Dance were trapped within the Forgotten Lands, Blackie and the others had kept themselves busy raiding level 20, 5-man party dungeons to level up and obtain materials and equipment. They were making preparations to challenge the level 20, 10-man Great Dungeon. During this process, they had obtained plenty of level 20 mysterious iron-ranked weapons and equipment. Currently, Zero Wing possessed the most level 20 weapons and equipment out of all the guilds in White River City. With such a large supply, Xueqi had set aside some of the level 20 mysterious iron-ranked weapons and equipment with the weakest performance for future use. However, he had never thought he would get to put them to good use so quickly. Following which, Xueqi chose to upgrade the Abyssal Blade once more. In God's domain, level 20 was considered a large threshold. Just like the time the Abyssal Blade had risen to level 10, It would receive a large improvement when it was upgraded to level 20. Now, whether or not Xueqi could clear the next trial would rely solely on the performance of the level 20 Abyssal Blade. The devouring process this time was clearly different from when the Abyssal Blade got upgraded to level 15. After devouring the offerings, the Abyssal Blade erupted and let loose a dragon's roar. The sky and earth trembled in the face of this mighty roar. Immediately after, the Abyssal Blade broke free from Xueqi's grasp and floated in mid-air. Boom! The Abyssal Blade exploded, transforming into a black tornado. The surroundings went deathly still as if with bated breath. As the black tornado dissipated, a gigantic figure emerged in its place. This figure was none other than the phantom of the Black Dragon King that Xueqi had previously seen. However, compared to the first time Xueqi had seen it, the phantom that appeared this time was much more vivid. Moreover, the destructive aura it emitted was far stronger than before. Even when he was faced with the apex powerhouses back at the Eternal Throne, Xueqi had not been so scared. Of course, this disparity was also due to the fact that those big shots had been intentionally suppressing their auras. At this moment, the Black Dragon King's phantom, which was several hundred meters in height, actually turned to look at Xueqi and revealed a human-like sneer. Soon after, the phantom dissipated and transformed back into the Abyssal Blade. As the sword landed, its blade stabbed deep into the earth before Xueqi, with only its hilt remaining above ground. Some time passed before Xueqi gradually recovered from his stupor. He then slowly extended his hand and pulled out the Abyssal Blade. The appearance of the Abyssal Blade had greatly changed after being upgraded. The entire sword was now silvery gray in color, and it exuded a faint black aura of death. The image of a black dragon could also be seen fading in and out of existence on the blade of the sword. Meanwhile, the image of a dragon had also been carved out of the hilt of the Abyssal Blade. There were small black chains wrapped around the hilt as well, seemingly acting as a seal for the dragon. Have I just done something I shouldn't have? Xueqi wondered, laughing bitterly as he looked at the lifelike dragon sculpture. Everything was playing out just as Faust, the legendary character Xueqi had met back at the Star River Valley, had said. A magic weapon was a double-edged sword. As one allowed the magic weapon to grow in strength, the curse contained within it would also grow stronger. Meanwhile, the wielder would sooner or later be devoured by the strength of the magic weapon. Chapter 292. Black Emperor. Extraordinary strength comes from an extraordinary will. This was the only advice Faust had given Xueqi. After Xueqi grasped the Abyssal Blade, which had undergone a huge change in its appearance, he could fully feel the terrifying strength contained within the sword itself. It was like the sword was alive. Xueqi could even feel pulsations when he gripped the hilt of the Abyssal Blade. It felt as if the Black Dragon King was roaring inside the Abyssal Blade and likely to break through its seals at any given time. Such powerful attributes. When Xueqi checked the attributes of the Abyssal Blade, he couldn't help but secretly marvel at them. The Abyssal Blade was definitely the best weapon below epic rank Xueqi had seen. Even the Blazing Meteor, which had been crafted by the forging genius Celiora, was not its match. Currently, based on the Abyssal Blade's attributes, it would not be an exaggeration to label the sword a pseudo-extraordinary item. Provided that he could continue upgrading it, it would reach the epic rank standard before long. Abyssal Blade, one-handed sword, magic weapon. Attack power plus 302. All attributes plus 30. Attack speed plus 10. Ignore levels plus 10. Attacks have 40% chance to cause 200% damage. 15% chance to cause 300% damage. 20% chance to induce Doom Curse, reducing all attributes by 40% for 30 seconds. If wielder belongs to any swordsman-related class, all skill levels plus 3. Increase free ability points received for every increase in level by 2 points. Equipment level 20. Can be upgraded. Devour 10 level 25 secret silver weapons and 1 level 25 fine gold weapon to upgrade to level 25. Can be evolved, unknown. Additional skill 1. Phantom Kill. Instantly creates a doppelganger. You can control this doppelganger. Doppelganger will have 70% of original body's attributes and all skills. At the same time, doppelganger and the original body can be swapped. Duration: 40 seconds. Cooldown: 5 minutes. Additional skill 2. Abyssal Bind. Binds enemies and prevents movement, reducing defense by 100%. Duration: 4 seconds. Cooldown: 1 minute. Additional skill 3. 9 Dragon Slash. Instantly creates 12 phantoms of the Abyssal Blade for wielder to use. Each phantom sword is capable of dealing up to 40% damage. Duration: 30 seconds. Cooldown: 5 minutes. Additional skill 4. Dark Violent Dance. 50% of the total damage dealt to the target spreads in a cone-shaped area towards targets within a distance of 12 yards. Duration: 30 seconds. Cooldown: 1 minute. Additional Profound Inheritance. Black Emperor. When activated, every critical hit will accumulate 1 layer of Death Aura. Each layer of Death Aura can be used to increase all attributes of wielder by 2% and attack speed and movement speed by 1% for 10 seconds, or be used to reduce the cooldown of a skill by 3 seconds. Maximum of 30 layers of Death Aura. Duration: 10 minutes. Cooldown: 18 hours. The Abyssal Blade was personally created by Master Smith Ollises using the Black Dragon King's fangs as material. It is one of 36 famed swords, and it is ranked 31st. However, this sword has been cursed by the Black Dragon King. Aside from providing the wielder with immense strength, there will be a backlash every period of time. However, after being remodeled by Jack using a star crystal, the strength of the backlash has been greatly reduced. If the wielder is unable to suppress the backlash, the wielder will receive the curse of the Black Dragon King, permanently reducing all attributes by 50%. Unable to be dropped. Unable to be traded. As expected of a magic weapon, it really doesn't disappoint. Even epic weapons rarely have profound inheritances attached to them. Now, before even reaching the standard of an epic weapon, it already possesses a profound inheritance. Xueqi breathed a sigh of relief after carefully reading through the introduction of the Black Emperor. With it, he should not have any problems facing the 6th trial. Profound inheritances were rarely seen during the early stages of God's Domain. They only started becoming widely known during the middle stages of the game. Inheritances and skills were different. In God's Domain, the skills provided to each class were made to accommodate the masses of players, so there was no sense of individuality to them. To put it another way, instead of skills being made to cater to the individual player, players were required to adapt themselves to pre-made skills, regardless of the suitability of said skills. Meanwhile, inheritances could be used by players to create their own unique method of attacking, allowing more freedom in their fighting styles. It could also further increase a player's combat power. The most basic of inheritances in God's Domain would enhance a player's skills, such as increasing the skill's damage or altering the effects of said skill to allow a more flexible fighting style. As for the more advanced inheritances, not only would they alter a player's skills, they could also increase a player's attributes. Meanwhile, the Black Emperor inheritance clearly belonged to this category. If others were to see the attributes on the Abyssal Blade, their jaws would definitely fall to the ground in shock. Some would even harbor thoughts of owning it for themselves. An organization like Underworld, which had been continuously gathering all kinds of powerful items, would definitely not hesitate to use unscrupulous means to take possession of the Abyssal Blade. In today's society, virtual gaming had already become one of the world's main forms of entertainment. The emergence of God's Domain had further solidified the position of virtual reality games in people's lives. Currently, the average person would spend close to half of their day living inside God's Domain. It was also due to this reason that players all wished to live a better and more respectable life in God's Domain. After all, life in God's Domain was just like another part of their own lives. However, unlike their lives in the real world, their lives in the virtual world were much purer and simpler. Generally, they only needed good weapons, equipment, and influence in the game. At this current age, players' pursuit of virtual items was no less than women's pursuit of luxury goods. After all, in the eyes of average players, weapons and equipment were the representation of strength. Gorgeous-looking weapons and equipment that allowed one to have amazing damage output were all the envy of average players. High-level weapons and equipment were symbols of strength in God's Domain, and countless players pursued them. It was also the reason why many players were willing to spend hundreds and thousands, and sometimes even tens of thousands of credits to purchase these powerful items. Some wealthy youths that were born with a golden spoon would even spend several millions without blinking just to obtain a powerful item. These people were willing to go to such lengths because, with powerful weapons and equipment, they could experience the pleasure of being superior to others. In the case of a magic weapon like the Abyssal Blade, it wouldn't be impossible for it to sell for an astronomical price of several tens of millions. Xueqi recalled that 1 year after God's Domain's official launch in the past, a legendary item had appeared in the world auction, which was held in the real world. At that time, the legendary item had been sold off for 60 million credits. The price had thoroughly shocked the entire world. Shortly after the auction, however, the person who sold the legendary item immediately regretted that decision. There was only a limited number of legendary items throughout the entire God's Domain, and every single one of them was considered a strategic weapon by guilds. Just by owning one, a player could easily get through their Tier 4 or even Tier 5 class promotions. Meanwhile, the value of a Tier 5 powerhouse could reach up to tens of billions of credits. The reason being, when a guild gave birth to a Tier 5 powerhouse, the guild would have the ability to conquer 2 or 3 additional cities that could each hold a population of several million people. Of course, the Abyssal Blade was still incapable of rivaling a legendary weapon at present. It wasn't even at the level of an epic weapon yet. However, it was what Xueqi currently needed the most. For Xueqi, several hundred points of additional attributes weren't as beneficial a powerful skill, and the Black Emperor inheritance just happened to fit the bill. Xueqi had learned many powerful skills. However, all of them possessed the same fatal weakness. All of them possessed explosive power, but none of them possessed any staying power. Maybe this weakness wouldn't be a problem when these skills were used inside a dungeon or against players with poor equipment. After all, when going against players with poor equipment, Xueqi did not even need to use up all the skills in his arsenal to finish them off. He could simply overwhelm them with superior attributes, and not even techniques would be required. Meanwhile, when inside dungeons, he would have MTs to tank the monsters at the front lines, healers to heal him from behind, and many other players to support him. He only needed to survive and wait for the cooldown of his skills to end before starting the next volley of attacks. But when fighting against monsters or players that were equal in strength with him, just a short burst of damage would not carry him to victory. Without sustainability, he would be trampled by his opponent after his short burst. Just take Absolute Heaven for example. When he had ambushed Xueqi, after his series of attacks had been defended against by Xueqi, the only other thing Absolute Heaven could do was to escape. Unless Absolute Heaven had a method to take advantage of his opponent's weakness, only death awaited him. Following the upgrade of the Abyssal Blade, Xueqi sank into deep contemplation for more than 2 hours, thinking of ways to incorporate the Black Emperor inheritance into his fighting style. Now, he felt much more confident about clearing the 6th trial. Let's see what kind of monster is awaiting me in the 6th trial then. Xueqi revealed a faint smile. Stretching his finger, he tapped yes on the system interface and started the next trial. Chapter 293, Balrog Serpent. Inside the Eternal Throne, the apex powerhouses of the War God's Temple were currently observing the situation inside the 12 trials, and they were all very shocked to discover that Xueqi actually wielded a magic weapon. What an amazing little guy! He isn't even a Tier 1 swordsman, yet he is actually able to master a magic weapon. Moreover, he has even released its power to such a degree. Controller of a magic weapon. Dominator of a mysterious flame. Moreover, his control over his own power has obviously crossed that threshold. He sure knows how to surprise us time after time. Yes, it would have been fine if it were just the magic weapon and mysterious flame, but he has even reached such a level of control over his own power already. Many of those who have attained a Tier 3 class can't even achieve such a degree of control. It seems he won't have any problems clearing the 6th trial. With such great potential hidden in him, if he had come to us a little later, he might have been able to clear even the 7th trial. Such a pity. The threshold these NPC big shots were referring to was simply one's ability to display 50% of one's own combat power. However, none of these NPCs knew that, in the past, Xueqi had once been a Tier 3 Sword King. Back then, Xueqi was capable of displaying up to 80% of his personal combat power. If not for his weak physique limiting his brain's development potential and also the quality of his own equipment being a problem, Xueqi would have long since been promoted to a Tier 4 Sword Emperor. This can't be helped. Who would have known the endless abyss would break the seal so quickly? There is no point feeling pity over the matter. We old folks should make some preparations for when the trial ends as well. Otherwise, we'll break our backs from overwork later. The Lords of the Silver Thrones unanimously acknowledged Xueqi's potential. However, in regard to Xueqi's managing to clear the 7th trial, they held no hope towards it at all. The reason being, it had been over a millennium since the 7th trial had been cleared. Inside the 12 trials, the stage for the 6th trial was a cave of lava similar to the Flame God's cave. However, the fire-type mana here was far purer than in the Flame God's cave. Xueqi currently stood inside this cave, and the molten hot lava around him was making bubbling sounds as it flowed through the cave. If Xueqi did not possess 20 points in fire resistance, allowing him a certain degree of immunity to heat, he would have long since been cooked by the scalding hot temperatures. Any average player that came here might already be half dead before they even started battling. Before Xueqi could fully observe the terrain inside the cave, a gigantic flame-covered snake over 20 meters long emerged from the molten lava. Balrog Serpent, Special Elite. Level 20. HP 150, 000/150, 000. Even if Xueqi did not know exactly how powerful this Balrog Serpent was, he had no doubt whatsoever that this serpent had a very high resistance towards fire-type attacks. Let's use you as a test for my new weapons. Xueqi revealed a faint smile as he unsheathed the Abyssal Blade and the Purgatory's Shadow. However, he did not directly charge at the Balrog Serpent, as that was something only an idiot would do. Before charging into battle, experts would first try to understand as much as they could about their opponent. Hence, Xueqi simply stood still and calmly observed the Balrog Serpent's every action, familiarizing himself with the giant serpent's movement patterns. The Balrog Serpent was also no idiot itself. It obviously knew that it was much stronger than Xueqi, and that its HP was tens of times higher than Xueqi's as well. So instead of giving Xueqi time to study it, the Balrog Serpent immediately widened its mouth and sent fireballs flying one after another at Xueqi. Xueqi's feet moved, his body instantly reacting and leaving behind an afterimage as he effortlessly dodged these incoming fireballs. Not giving up, the Balrog Serpent continued bombarding Xueqi with a stream of fireballs. If 3 were not enough, then 5. If 5 were not enough, then 10. Soon, the space within the cave was packed with fireballs. By attacking in such a way, not only could the Balrog Serpent damage its enemies, it could also prevent them from closing in on it. Faced with such a method of attack that combined both offense and defense, average players would definitely grow helpless and suffer the bombardment of these dozens of fireballs. Xueqi, however, was no average player. In the face of all these fireballs, instead of retreating, he chose to advance without the slightest shred of hesitation. Yet, contrary to expectations, Xueqi did not end up suffering a tragic end at the hands of the fireballs. Instead, he looked as if he was dancing as he weaved through the rain of fire, his actions seemingly easy and enjoyable. However, when the distance between him and the Balrog Serpent shortened to 20 yards, he could no longer rely solely on evading the fireballs to move forward. I've mostly grasped its attack timing. Now, it's time to have a look at how amazing my new weapons are. Xueqi inwardly smiled as he looked at the Balrog Serpent that was constantly spitting out fireballs. Xueqi activated the ice blue devil flame, and deep blue flames immediately wrapped around his body. He then used silent steps to appear right behind the Balrog Serpent's head. The first thing he did when he arrived was to send a vertical slash down on the Balrog Serpent's head, causing -372 damage to the monster. Such strong defense. Xueqi looked at the resulting damage, disbelief filling his eyes. The Abyssal Blade itself already possessed 302 attack power. If Xueqi's strength were taken into account, his total attack power should be well over 700 points. Moreover, the ice blue devil flame had also increased the damage he dealt by 20%. Yet, he had managed to cause only -372 damage to the monster. The Balrog Serpent's defense could already rival a Lord-ranked monster of the same level. If Xueqi had not upgraded the Abyssal Blade to level 20 nor equipped the Dark Gold-ranked Purgatory's Shadow, Xueqi might not even be able to deal -150 damage to the Balrog Serpent right now. At this moment, Xueqi felt fortunate that he had not rushed before to start the 6th trial. Otherwise, his chances of victory would have been lower than 20%. However, although Xueqi had allowed this thought to linger in his mind for a moment, his attacks on the Balrog Serpent never stopped. Immediately after his first sword strike, Xueqi followed up by using Thundering Flash. 3 electric arcs dove into the flaming Balrog Serpent, piercing its gigantic body and causing damages of -554, -1528, and -1125. The damage he dealt was much higher than before. Simultaneously, he had also inflicted a damage amplification debuff that lasted 20 seconds on the Balrog Serpent. Following which, Xueqi continued with a chop, the attack achieving a critical hit and dealing close to -2000 damage. When Xueqi landed on the ground, he immediately followed up with a flurry of sword slashes. The Abyssal Blade now had a 40% chance to deal a critical hit, so Xueqi could deal a critical hit with almost every other attack. From this series of attacks, the Balrog Serpent had lost over 7,000 HP. However, the Giant Serpent had 150,000 HP. Xueqi would need to repeat such a burst of attacks at least 20 more times in order to completely kill it. Originally, Xueqi felt quite happy with the damage he was dealing. At this rate, even if he did not activate Black Emperor, he still possessed a very high chance of killing the Balrog Serpent. Unfortunately, that happiness was short-lived. The reason being, Xueqi soon discovered that the Balrog Serpent's HP was rapidly returning to full. It was actually recovering 500 HP every second. That amount was even higher than a single one of Xueqi's normal attacks. If Xueqi remained idle, the Balrog Serpent would fully recover in less than 20 seconds. Meanwhile, the Balrog Serpent immediately sent its tail swiping at Xueqi, finally reacting to Xueqi's attacks. Xueqi hurriedly used parry to block the attack. Although he suffered no damage from the Balrog Serpent's tail strike, he was forced to retreat 3 steps, with his hands growing numb from the force of the impact as well. In terms of destructive power, the Balrog Serpent was definitely superior to the Chimera. The Balrog Serpent was also much faster. Xueqi had actually been forced to use parry because he could not dodge in time. Currently, Xueqi's parry was at level 7, so it had a cooldown of 21 seconds. Aside from parry, Xueqi also had Defensive Blade, a skill that had both offensive and defensive capabilities. Currently, Defensive Blade was at level 6, and it had a cooldown of 2 minutes. Although its cooldown was much longer than parry, it allowed Xueqi to completely block 4 melee attacks and 8 ranged attacks. He would also be immune to charge attacks. Just as the dozens of fireballs were about to hit him, Xueqi jumped into the air, dodging them completely. Right after that, the Balrog Serpent swiped its tail at Xueqi again. The sound of wind whistling could be heard as its tail streaked through the air. In the face of this powerful attack, Xueqi showed no signs of weaknesses. Immediately, he countered the attack with the level 7 Thunderflame explosion. When sword and tail collided, sparks of flame scattered in all directions. The Balrog Serpent's tail was knocked back, the monster itself receiving over -400 damage from the brief clash. On the other hand, Xueqi landed heavily onto the ground, his feet sinking partly into the molten lava. A damage of over -700 points also appeared above his head. As expected, in a direct confrontation, Xueqi was definitely a lot weaker than the Balrog Serpent. However, Xueqi was probably the only player in God's domain right now who dared to actually fight a special elite monster in such a way. Chapter 294. Storm of Swords. Although Xueqi lost against the Balrog Serpent in a direct confrontation, Thunderflame Explosion, the skill he used, wasn't just a powerful destructive skill. It was also a control skill. However, the Balrog Serpent was a special elite monster. It possessed a degree of resistance towards control skills. Hence, the level 7 Thunderflame Explosion, which would originally place enemies hit by it in a fainted state for 5 seconds, only managed to incapacitate the Balrog Serpent for 5 seconds. For average players, 5 seconds might not seem like a long time. For Xueqi, however, it was plenty of time. Wind Blade. Xueqi instantly arrived before the Balrog Serpent. Simultaneously, his attack speed received a 30% increase. However, Xueqi was still not satisfied with this. He then proceeded to activate the additional skill of the Purgatory Shadow, Purgatory Power. Purgatory Power, when activated, increases attack speed by 100% and damage dealt by 30% for 15 seconds. Cooldown: 2 minutes. Xueqi then activated 9 Dragon's Slash. 12 phantoms of the Abyssal Blade suddenly appeared, floating around Xueqi. Each phantom was capable of dealing 40% damage for 30 seconds. However, it had a long cooldown of 5 minutes. Xueqi brandished his 2 swords using his full strength. In addition to the 12 Abyssal Blade phantoms he was controlling, a total of 14 swords surrounded and madly attacked the Balrog Serpent. Within moments, the cave was filled with sword images dancing around. 14, 28, 56, 112. Countless sword images flashed in the air, forming a storm of swords that devoured the Balrog Serpent whole. Xueqi's sword slashed at the Balrog Serpent's body one after another, each strike causing close to -500 damage. Moreover, close to half of this barrage of attacks achieved a critical hit, each dealing close to -1000 damage to the monster. Meanwhile, each of the phantoms of the Abyssal Blade had also managed to deal over -200 damage to the Balrog Serpent. The total damage of the 12 phantoms was even more frightening than that of Xueqi himself. As if the floodgates to the Balrog Serpent's 150,000 HP had been opened, the Balrog Serpent lost HP incessantly. Within a short 3-5 seconds, the Balrog Serpent's HP had already fallen to 61%. When the Balrog Serpent regained consciousness, it immediately released an enraged roar. At this moment, however, Xueqi pointed the Abyssal Blade at the Balrog Serpent. "Now is still not the time for you to wake up." Xueqi cast Abyssal Bind on the Balrog Serpent right away. If he were to allow the Balrog Serpent to start retaliating, his previous efforts would all go to waste. In the blink of an eye, 9 pitch-black chains emerged from the ground, quickly wrapping around and binding the Balrog Serpent. Meanwhile, the Balrog Serpent could do nothing but roar in anger as it helplessly watched sword after sword piercing its own body, continuously reaping its HP. The Abyssal Bind had a duration of 4 seconds. Moreover, the Balrog Serpent's resistance towards control skills was completely ineffective against it. The Abyssal Bind's effective duration was not reduced in the slightest. In addition, the Abyssal Bind reduced the Balrog Serpent's defense by 100%, rendering the Balrog Serpent's innately powerful defense utterly useless. Now, each of Xueqi's sword strikes dealt over -800 damage, with the occasional triple critical hit dealing over -2500 damage. A series of splendid numbers appeared above the Balrog Serpent's head. Before the eye-catching number of -2500 disappeared, a damage of over -1700 points appeared on top of it. Practically 1 out of every 2 strikes would achieve a critical hit. Meanwhile, each of the 12 Abyssal Blade Phantoms were now dealing over -350 damage to the Balrog Serpent. For the Balrog Serpent, these 4 seconds were a complete hell. By the time the Balrog Serpent escaped from the chains binding it, it had only 19% HP remaining. However, Xueqi had long since been prepared for this moment. Disappear! Xueqi raised the silvery gray Abyssal Blade. The dense fire-type mana in the surroundings started gathering around the Abyssal Blade, causing the sword to release a blinding glow. This was indeed Xueqi's ultimate skill, Flame Burst. Flame Burst. Level 5, requires 4 million EXP to upgrade to level 6. Channeling time, 2 seconds. Gathers the power of flames to a single point and causes 420% damage to the target. Attack count, 6 times. Cooldown, 3 minutes 30 seconds. Before the Balrog Serpent could even start attacking, Xueqi had already brandished the scorching hot Abyssal Blade 6 times. All 6 sword slashes immediately sank into the Balrog Serpent's body. -3310, -3347, -6784, -6706, -3371, -6754. 6 frightening damages appeared consecutively above the Balrog Serpent's head, instantly taking away the monster's remaining 28,000 HP. Soon after, the Balrog Serpent's body started fading away, and only after it disappeared completely, did Xueqi release a sigh of relief. System: Balrog Serpent defeated. 6th trial completed. Rewarding 9 million EXP, 20 free mastery points, and 10 gold coins. Proficiency of all skills increased by 500 points. System: 6th trial cleared. Do you wish to start the next trial? Feng's experience bar immediately rose to 41% of level 21. If put on the ranking list on White River City, Feng would only be beneath Violet Cloud and the others. However, he was still 2 levels behind Blackie, the current top-ranking player of White River City. Finally, I've passed the requirement. Should I try to take on the 7th trial though? Feng looked at the system interface showing the trial's prompt. Privately, Feng had the notion to take the challenge. Now that he had cleared the 6th trial, it signified that his task was already over. He had no need to brave the dangers and accept the next trial at all. Moreover, if he happened to lose his life in the next trial, he would definitely suffer a heavy penalty. It absolutely wouldn't be limited to just losing a single level. Truth be told, however, Feng felt confident about his chances at clearing the 7th trial. After all, he had not even unveiled the Black Emperor inheritance when he fought the Balrog Serpent. He definitely had the necessary strength to challenge the 7th trial. After clearing the 6th trial, Feng obtained an additional 1,600 merit points. If he were to clear the 7th trial, he could obtain another 3,200 merit points, bringing his total to 4,800 merit points. It would be enough points for him to exchange for an epic ranked item. Just the prospect of obtaining an epic ranked item made Feng feel that he should give it a try. Besides, Feng no longer had any burdens to carry, so why not give it a try? However, Feng was unsure of what kind of price he would have to pay if he were to suffer death. If it was only losing a single level, then Feng would gladly proceed to the 7th trial. However, Feng knew such an outcome was not likely. Just the penalty for not completing the Trial of Gods was already considered unbearable for players. Some players might even have to delete and restart their accounts due to the harsh penalties imposed. Meanwhile, the 12 trials was the most challenging trial of the War God's Temple. It would be an insult to the War God's Temple if the punishment for dying was only the loss of a single level. Just as Feng was hesitating, his system communicator rang. Meanwhile, the person calling him was Aqua Rose. Did something happen? Feng asked. Previously, Feng had already told Aqua Rose that he did not wish to be disturbed as he was about to do a quest, and that, unless there was something big happening, she shouldn't try to contact him. Based on Aqua Rose's serious personality, if it wasn't an extremely important matter, then she definitely wouldn't try to contact him, hence Feng's question. Dark Star has suddenly declared an all-out war against us, and several hundreds of our guild members have already been killed by members of Dark Star while they were out grinding. Moreover, the core team, led by Fire Dance, has also been trapped by Dark Star inside the Silverleaf Forest. Although we've already sent reinforcements, they were blocked by members of Dark Star outside the forest. What I'm trying to say is that, guild leader, you need to immediately contact Gentle Snow and have her send some people to help contain Dark Star so that our members can take the opportunity to save Fire Dance and the others. Aqua Rose was extremely anxious at this moment. They had already failed to break through the encirclement of Dark Star around the Silverleaf Forest multiple times now. If this situation continued, Fire Dance and the others would truly be finished. Feng Xianyang, you did good. Feng's expression immediately sank, a cold killing intent gleaming in his eyes. If Fire Dance and the others belonging to the main force of the guild were to die a few times, it would be a tremendous loss to Zero Wing. Leaving aside the fame that Fire Dance and the others had accumulated for themselves, just losing a part of the equipment they possessed would be a serious blow to the guild. Just how long would it take for them to recover such precious equipment? Meanwhile, when Feng tried to figure out who was responsible for such a situation, Feng Xianyang came up as his strongest suspect. Feng Xianyang was the true wielder of authority in Dark Star. After Feng's previous forthright rejection, it would not be strange if Feng Xianyang retaliated. Hence, who else could be responsible for Dark Star's declaration of war? Chapter 295. Mirage Beast. Although Feng was incensed by this news, Fire Dance and the others would have long since lost their lives by the time he arrived at the Silverleaf Forest. All right, I'll contact Gentle Snow immediately. Feng disconnected his call with Aqua Rose after saying so. He then called out his friends list, selected Gentle Snow's name, and chose to contact her. It was a fact that Ouroboros and Zero Wing were allies. Since an ally was under attack, Gentle Snow naturally did not refuse to send reinforcements when Xueqi asked. Moreover, Gentle Snow had found out about this entire matter a step ahead of Xueqi. Hence, she had already organized her subordinates even before Xueqi contacted her, and they were just about to hurry over to the Silverleaf Forest right at that moment. Gentle Snow had gathered 2,000 members from Ouroboros to aid Zero Wing. Of them, 500 were elite members of the guild. Such a powerful force would pose a huge threat to the 6,000 members of Dark Star blocking the way into the Silverleaf Forest. Many thanks for your help, Miss Snow. In the future, members of Ouroboros that shop at the Starstreak trading firm can enjoy a 10% discount on all products, Xueqi said in thanks. You said this yourself. I'll gladly accept your offer then. Gentle Snow revealed a faint smile. Currently, over half of the player population in White River City was patronizing the Starstreak trading firm. After all, not only were the items sold there of good quality, there was also a large selection available. Moreover, the product supply was plentiful. Normally, the various guilds in White River City would always make a trip to the Starstreak trading firm before they went dungeon diving. If Ouroboros could receive a 10% discount when purchasing items there, it would save the guild a lot of money. Really though, just what is going through the minds of those people in Dark Star? It would be fine if it were just the usual minor skirmish. However, they have actually declared an all-out war on Zero Wing. Isn't Lone Tyrant afraid that his guild might suffer heavy losses and lose the ability to compete for the first clear of the 3 great dungeons? Gentle Snow commented curiously. The competition over the first clear of the 3 great dungeons had already reached its most crucial moment right now. Moreover, Dark Star only had the final boss left to defeat in order to snag the first clear of the Land of Death, and gain an absolute advantage over the other guilds. However, Dark Star had instead chosen to take action against Zero Wing at this critical junction. God's Domain had been launched just recently. At this early stage of the game, everyone was busy leveling up and raiding dungeons to strengthen themselves. Guilds, in particular, were deeply afraid of falling behind others. Even if conflict arose between guilds, both sides would usually choose to show restraint. After all, an all-out war between guilds would profit nobody. Worse, they might even get taken advantage of by a third party. If such a situation were to truly occur, then the damage to both guilds would grow even more massive. Hence, unless there was a huge disparity in strength between both sides, nobody would casually choose to start a war. Dark Star and Zero Wing were both among the top 6 guilds in White River City, so the difference in strength between the 2 guilds was not particularly wide. No matter how Gentle Snow looked at the situation, she could not figure out why Dark Star would choose to suddenly declare war. I am afraid that the one starting the war this time around isn't Lone Tyrant, but the organization that's backing him, Underworld, Xueqi said, laughing bitterly. Underworld. Gentle Snow couldn't help but wrinkle her eyebrows at this revelation. So that's how it is. I've been wondering how Dark Star had managed to suddenly obtain so many experts. It turns out the mysterious power supporting Dark Star is Underworld. However, how did you manage to find out about this? Even though I've planted many spies inside Dark Star, I never managed to uncover the forces hidden behind Dark Star. Feng Xianyang from Underworld came looking for me to buy some of Zero Wing's shares. However, the price he offered was simply too low. I rejected his offer, so now he is trying to get back at me by destroying Zero Wing. Xueqi revealed the truth. Gentle Snow immediately understood the situation after listening to Xueqi's words. It was no wonder Dark Star was completely unafraid of commencing an all-out war. With Underworld's background, it only needed to field a part of its forces located in the eastern region of Star Moon Kingdom to completely destroy Zero Wing. With such a large disparity in strength, it was natural for Dark Star not to fear a war. So it is Feng Xianyang. He is indeed a person who would take revenge for the slightest of offenses. However, with Underworld's financial power, his offer to buy Zero Wing, which possesses a guild residence, should not have been low. At the very least, he should have offered 500 to 600 million, right? Gentle Snow came to an abrupt realization. However, she also felt curious about this matter, as the Feng Xianyang she knew was not a tight-fisted person. 1 billion credits and several hundred experts. In addition, they would also provide 100 gold coins as support every week, Xueqi said. 1 billion credits and also 100 gold coins per week. Feng Xianyang sure is generous. Even I might feel tempted if given such an offer. Yet, You actually complain that it's too little? No wonder he's angry. Gentle Snow chuckled softly. Xueqi simply replied with a faint smile, not bothering to give an explanation on the matter. Aside from a few core guild members knowing about the Purple Sun Mansion being their new guild residence, nobody else knew anything about it. The others only knew that Zero Wing possessed a guild residence. They were not clear where exactly it was located. After all, there were simply too many plots of land available in White River City. Moreover, the Purple Sun Mansion was currently under reconstruction. It would take 2 more days before it can be used and also unveiled to the public. Following which, Xueqi made some small talk with Gentle Snow before ending the call. He then proceeded to start the 7th trial. If nothing unexpected happened, the 2,000 players led by Gentle Snow could definitely break apart Dark Star's encirclement around the Silverleaf Forest. Hence, what Xueqi needed to do now was to increase his own strength by obtaining even better tools and equipment, slowly and gradually enhancing their guild's foundation. In regard to the battle at the Silverleaf Forest, Xueqi could only play the role of an observer. Even if he were to rush over there right this instant, everything would have long since been over by the time he arrived. However, Xueqi would definitely remember this debt of hatred. Sooner or later, he would repay this debt to Dark Star and Underworld 10 times over. The stage for the 7th trial was an ancient coliseum. The moment Xueqi laid eyes on his opponent, he was immediately shocked by what he saw. Why is it myself? Xueqi looked at the familiar figure gradually appearing at a corner of the coliseum, feeling very surprised. However, when he used observing eyes on this twin of his, he immediately came to an understanding. Mirage Beast, Rare Special Elite. Level 20. HP 200, 000/200, 000. This Mirage Beast was capable of replicating the appearance and skills of an enemy. However, unlike players, it had a frightening amount of HP. In a one-on-one situation, players would find it extremely difficult to kill the Mirage Beast. In God's domain, the only advantage players had over monsters was the diversity of skills they possessed. Meanwhile, players could use these skills in various combinations to exert even stronger power. Yet, if the Mirage Beast possessed the same skills that players did, then players would lose even that little advantage they had. When comparing the power of skills, the Mirage Beast skills might even be more powerful than the players. Good timing. I was just thinking of trying out a few things. Xueqi advanced, immediately directing a chop at the Mirage Beast. Meanwhile, the Mirage Beast had similarly charged at Xueqi, and it too had sent a chop at Xueqi. The moment the two swords clashed, sparks flew all around. However, when all was said and done, Xueqi was still a player. In terms of strength, he was still far inferior to the Mirage Beast. Hence, Xueqi was easily repelled, forced by the Mirage Beast to retreat step by step. Meanwhile, the Mirage Beast was also superior in terms of attack speed. Although the ensuing damage from a collision of weapons was small, after clashing for tens or even hundreds of times, Xueqi would eventually lose his life. After all, the Mirage Beast possessed 200,000 HP, while Xueqi's HP was just slightly over 2,600 after reaching level 21. Moreover, Xueqi was receiving more damage than the Mirage Beast from their exchanges. Not to mention, both sides were also executing various skills. When Xueqi used Thundering Flash, the Mirage Beast would activate Windwalk to dodge the attack. It would then counter with a Thundering Flash of its own. Knowing that he could not receive the attack directly, Xueqi, too, activated Windwalk to dodge. However, the Mirage Beast activated Wind Blade to immediately appear before Xueqi. It then followed up with a chop, sending an extremely quick vertical slash down towards its prey. Xueqi hastily used parry to block the Mirage Beast's chop. He countered with a Thunder Flame explosion right away. In the end, however, the Mirage Beast used parry to fend off the powerful attack. Xueqi then followed up with a Flame Burst, which was promptly countered with a defensive blade by the Mirage Beast. The exchange between both sides was extremely intense. After a dozen seconds or so, Xueqi's HP had fallen to 60%. On the other hand, the Mirage Beast had lost only a negligible amount of HP. Just the Mirage Beast's battle recovery negated most of the damage Xueqi had caused. As expected of the 7th trial, even the monster's normal attacks and skills are used with such viciousness. However, instead of feeling afraid, A sense of excitement was bubbling within Xueqi at the moment. However, do you know this move? Xueqi looked at the Mirage beast, a faint smile appearing on his face. He then proceeded to activate the Black Emperor inheritance. Dark fog immediately started emerging from the abyssal blade and then entered Xueqi's body. Chapter 296. Perfect Combination. Although the Mirage Beast was capable of duplicating a player's every skill, Xueqi had already obtained a clear understanding of the Mirage Beast during this short period of time. Xueqi had previously activated the Ice Blue Devil Flame after starting the battle. Yet, the Mirage Beast had not done so. The Ice Blue Devil Flame was not a skill Xueqi had learned. Instead, it was an additional effect provided by the item known as the Ice Blue Devil Flame. Hence, Xueqi could say with certainty that the Mirage Beast was incapable of duplicating the additional skills of a player's equipment. The moment the dark fog, which emanated from the abyssal blade, started permeating Xueqi's body, a faint silvery gray aura of death emerged on the surface of his body. Immediately, he charged at the Mirage Beast, while simultaneously activating 9 Dragon Slash. The 12 abyssal blade phantoms promptly started attacking the Mirage Beast the moment they came into existence. When the Mirage Beast saw the 12 phantoms striking at it, it cleverly chose not to block them. Instead, it bombarded Xueqi with a thunder flame explosion. As long as Xueqi died, the 12 abyssal blade phantoms would naturally disappear along with him. Seeing the Mirage Beast's actions, Xueqi simply revealed a calm smile. Rather than dodge the attack, however, Xueqi chose to activate Defensive Blade and proceeded to assault the Mirage Beast's vital point. Defensive Blade provided Xueqi with complete immunity to 4 melee attacks. He could simply allow the Mirage Beast's attack to connect without needing to defend using his sword at all. Meanwhile, Xueqi's twin swords had also landed on the Mirage Beast's body. Previously, in order to block Xueqi's Thunderflame explosion, the Mirage Beast had used up its own defensive blade. Hence, it had no choice but to endure Xueqi's attacks right now. Xueqi took this chance to make 7 consecutive slashes on the Mirage Beast's body. His normal attacks caused over -500 damage, while critical hits dealt over -1000 damage. Meanwhile, each of the abyssal blade phantoms could also inflict over -200 damage. Out of the 7 sword strikes Xueqi landed on the Mirage Beast, for achieved a critical hit. Coupling those sword strikes with the attacks of the abyssal blade phantoms, Xueqi dealt over -7000 damage within this brief moment. It was a very impressive amount of damage. However, the Mirage Beast, which had taken on Xueqi's appearance, simply gave Xueqi a smile of disdain. The Mirage Beast looked as if it was saying, "This is your limit." The Mirage Beast had 200,000 HP, so -7000 damage was only a scratch to it. It would be perfectly fine again once it rubbed some spit on its wounds. On the other hand, now that Xueqi no longer possessed any life-saving skills, only death awaited him. A high HP is really a great asset. Xueqi sighed when he looked at the Mirage Beast's HP bar. In the next moment though, Xueqi revealed a smile, saying however, "You are still 10 years too early if you think you can overpower me just with this asset of yours alone." Xueqi activated the Purgatory Shadow's additional skill, Purgatory Power, increasing his attack speed by 100% and damage by 30% for 15 seconds. Xueqi then pointed the Abyssal Blade at the Mirage Beast charging at him. Abyssal Bind. 9 chilling chains instantly emerged from the ground, wrapping around and restraining the Mirage Beast. Abyssal Bind had a duration of 4 seconds. Despite being sealed, however, the Mirage Beast showed no signs of panic at all. It did not even try to resist in the slightest. Instead, it revealed a mocking expression as it looked at Xueqi, as if telling Xueqi to slash it as much as he wanted to. Previously, Xueqi had only managed to take away around 7,000 of its HP after attacking it for slightly over a second. Even if the Mirage Beast allowed Xueqi free reign for 4 full seconds, the most it would lose was around 30,000 HP. That was not even a quarter of its total HP. Moreover, after Xueqi exhausted all his skills, he would also lose his means of dealing bursts of damage. With neither life-saving skills nor bursting skills, the end result was obvious. Hence, the Mirage Beast felt very assured of its victory. Since the very beginning, this human never had a chance of defeating it. However, the Mirage Beast quickly discovered that reality was much crueler than fantasy. The Abyssal Bind indeed had a duration of only 4 seconds. However, the skill also possessed the effect of reducing its target's defense by 100%, and this allowed Xueqi's damage to abruptly soar. Now, each of Xueqi's normal attacks could deal over -700 damage. Miraculously, one of his attacks even triggered the Doom Curse, one of the Abyssal Blade's effects. Instantly, the Mirage Beast had its attributes reduced by 30%, and its maximum HP fell from 200,000 to 140,000. Engulfed by the storm of swords, the Mirage Beast's HP fell crazily. Xueqi also achieved critical hits with his attacks one after another, stacking layer upon layer of death aura around his body. In this situation, the 9-Dragon Slash could be said to be a perfect match for the Black Emperor inheritance. After activating the 9-Dragon Slash, Xueqi would not be lacking in death auras at all. Before the 4 seconds were up, the Mirage Beast's HP had already gone below the 70% threshold. Just as the Abyssal Bind was about to lose effect, and the Mirage Beast was about to regain its freedom, Xueqi abruptly leaped into the air and switched sword techniques. Simultaneously, he used 10 of the 30 layers of death aura he had accumulated to reduce the Thunderflame Explosion's cooldown. The level 7 Thunderflame Explosion had a cooldown of 30 seconds. Meanwhile, each layer of death aura could reduce a skill's cooldown by 3 seconds. After using 10 layers of death aura, Thunderflame Explosion could be used again. However, Xueqi was still not done. He then used the remaining 20 layers of death aura on himself, instantly increasing all his basic attributes by 40%, and attack speed and movement speed by 20% for 10 seconds. After receiving this new buff, Xueqi executed Thunderflame Explosion, bombarding the Mirage Beast's head and sending sparks of flame flying all around. A damage of over -1,300 points appeared above the Mirage Beast's head, and the monster was placed into a fainted state for 3 seconds. Unless a monster was completely immune to control skills, powerful experts could usually restrain said monster continuously until death. Meanwhile, it was obvious that the monsters were not completely immune to control skills. They simply had a certain degree of resistance that would degrade the effects of control skills. Otherwise, it would truly be impossible for players to clear the 12 trials. Nevertheless, Xueqi was very clear about his own situation. Currently, as his level was still low and the number of skills he had learned was few, he only possessed explosive power but no staying power. After his short burst, if his enemy wasn't dead, the only options left for him were either to die or to flee. At present, Xueqi still had many gaps to fill in terms of the skills he had learned. However, the Black Emperor inheritance just happened to be able to fill these gaps, allowing him to create a perfect cycle with his skills. Without the Black Emperor inheritance, Xueqi would not have dared to challenge the 7th trial at all. The only pity was that the effects of the Black Emperor inheritance could only be used on the skills Xueqi had personally learned. It could not be used on the additional skills that came with equipment or weapons. If it were actually possible to do so, it would simply be too overpowered. Throughout the fainted debuff's 3-second duration, Xueqi had not only dealt a ton of damage himself, he had also managed to collect over 20 layers of death aura, thanks to the 9-Dragon Slash. When the Mirage Beast was about to regain consciousness, Xueqi spent another 10 layers of death aura to reset the cooldown of Thunderflame Explosion, before promptly using it on the Mirage Beast again. This time, however, the fainted debuff of Thunderflame Explosion was less effective on the Mirage Beast. The debuff's duration was less than 3 seconds now. However, Xueqi did not care about this matter, because at this time, he was drowning in the pleasure he felt from brandishing his 2 swords. He felt that this was the true combat method a swordsman should have, and it was a combat method he had always been pursuing. Excessive strength easily gave rise to gaps. Instead of mindlessly trying to deal as much damage as possible, the true way to battle was to combine and coordinate one's skills to attack steadily like flowing water. In this way, Xueqi continually used Thunderflame Explosion to incapacitate the Mirage Beast. Although the fainted debuff's effect grew weaker and weaker each time, the Mirage Beast's remaining 140,000 HP was still forcefully wiped out by Xueqi's perfect control. Ultimately, the Mirage Beast remained helpless until the very end. The various big shots present in the Eternal Throne also could not help but be shocked by this result. They had never imagined that Xueqi had such strength within him. System: Mirage Beast defeated. 7th trial completed. Rewarding 15 million EXP, 30 free mastery points, and 10 gold coins. Proficiency of all skills increased by 800 points. System. 7th trial cleared. Do you wish to start the next trial? The moment Xueqi received 15 million EXP, he instantly leveled up twice to level 23. Currently, only Blackie had reached level 23 throughout the entire White River City. However, Blackie had spent several days in order to go from level 21 to level 23. On the other hand, Xueqi had taken less than 10 seconds to do so. Xueqi then looked at the system notification. Although his heart was filled with anticipation towards the 8th trial, he still shook his head, thinking to himself, one needs to know when to stop. With the points I've earned, I can already exchange for an epic ranked item. If I were to choose to continue, I would no longer be an expert but a gambler. The 12 trials was the toughest trial of the War God's Temple. The difficulty of the trials would definitely multiply several-fold the further he went. In Xueqi's estimation, the monster of the 8th trial would not be just a special elite monster. Instead, it was highly possible for it to be a chieftain-ranked monster. A chieftain was much more powerful than a mere special elite. Aside from having even more HP, it would also possess a much greater resistance to control skills. Chieftain-ranked monsters also possessed team wipe skills, and a single mistake would mean the end for Xueqi. Moreover, Xueqi did not possess the slightest idea what kind of monster he would be facing in the 8th trial. If it was a chieftain-ranked monster that he was completely unfamiliar with, then he practically had no chance of successfully killing it. The ability to make calm analyses was also a prerequisite to becoming an expert in God's domain. As a first-rate expert, Xueqi naturally knew when to decisively give up. Following which, Xueqi selected No in reply to the system's prompt. He was then teleported out of the 12 trials. Chapter 297, Stigmata. Interesting. Truly interesting. Sitting on a silver throne, Xueqi voiced his praise as he looked at Xueqi. Your performance has completely surpassed our expectations. It is also for this reason that we have decided to reward you with an additional 2,000 merit points. It was also a fact that the last time someone managed to clear the 7th trial was over a millennium ago. System. Rewarding 2,000 War God's Temple merit points. That's generous of them. An expression of joy appeared on Xueqi's face. With 1,500 merit points, Xueqi could afford to exchange for a dark gold ranked item. Meanwhile, 4,000 merit points would be equivalent to an epic ranked item. Hence, the additional 2,000 merit points he received right now was truly a big harvest. Since you've already passed our test, walk to the center of the chamber. We will give you the strength necessary to locate the 7 treasures, Xueqi said. Xueqi then strode to the center of the eternal throne. There were countless divine runes inscribed on the floor there, joined together to form a huge magic array. Meanwhile, the 50 silver thrones were hovering around this magic array, the thrones themselves apparently connected somehow with this magic array. Let us begin then, Xueqi said as he looked at his companions. The lords of the silver thrones nodded their heads and promptly stood up. Immediately after, the mana inside the eternal throne started churning. The mana density here was no less than at the god's grave. Meanwhile, this thick mana clustered around the magic array, forming 50 dense-looking fluid balls. Each one of these fluid balls was the size of a basin. These balls of liquid mana were definitely the densest mana Xueqi had ever seen in all his years of playing God's domain. At this time, Xueqi had also turned his head to look at one of the lords of the golden thrones. My lord, the preparations are completed, Xueqi said respectfully. It is still not enough, the phantom sitting in a golden throne said in a low tone. Xueqi was confused by these words. The liquid mana they had formed was several hundred times more precious than even 7 luminaries crystals, and each and every drop had taken the 50 of them great efforts to form, not to mention 50 basin-sized liquid mana. Such an amount of liquid mana was more than enough to cast a silver stigmata. It is rare to find good talent. Let us lend a hand as well, the phantom sitting in a golden throne said to his 8 other companions. Very well then. A person capable of passing the 7th trial is indeed worthy of the 9 of us taking action. The other 8 lords of the golden thrones nodded their heads in reply to their companion's suggestion. They then stood from their seats, floating in mid-air as they started to condense mana as well. In the blink of an eye, 9 house-sized balls of liquid mana appeared in the air above the thrones in the Eternal Throne. Eucharis and the others were shocked by this sight. Never would they have imagined that these 9 lords would actually take action and work together to cast a stigmata for a minor existence like Xueqi. This was the first time since the appearance of that absolute genius thousands of years ago. As for Xueqi, at this moment, he could no longer keep his mouth closed. In regard to liquid mana, Xueqi had seen this item before in the past. Mages considered it a priceless treasure. Even when offered epic ranked items in trade, mage players would not be willing to part with the liquid mana they possessed. Just the basin-sized balls of liquid mana that each of the Lords of the Silver Thrones had formed had already given Xueqi a great shock. Now the 9 peerless existences floating in front of the Golden Thrones had actually managed to each form a house-sized ball of liquid mana. Judging based on sizes, the total liquid mana summoned by the 50 people from before did not amount to even 1/10 of a single house. In the next moment, all of the liquid mana summoned was injected into the magic array. The divine runes engraved into the chamber started lighting up one after another, and within moments, every single divine rune inside the grand chamber was giving off a golden glows. In the center of the Eternal Throne, a golden divine pattern took form. This divine pattern then melded with Xueqi's body. Xueqi immediately felt his body being filled up with an infinite amount of power, his mind clear as day, as if he knew everything there was to know in the world. However, this feeling only lasted for a few short seconds before it completely dissipated. Meanwhile, Xueqi's pupils, which were originally pitch black in color, had also turned golden for a brief moment. Although his pupils regained their original color, careful observation would reveal innumerable bright stars flashing within them, looking just like the starry skies at night. System. Congratulations! Player has obtained Golden Stigmata. Reputation with the War God's Temple increased by 3,000 points. The seal on the Endless Abyss has been broken. If we wish to reseal the Endless Abyss, we need the assistance of the 7 treasures, which the gods had bestowed upon the human race. However, the 7 treasures have been missing for hundreds of years now, scattered throughout this large continent. A few of these 7 treasures have even been damaged. It would be extremely difficult to locate and gather the 7 treasures. However, with the stigmata that we have engraved into your body, your task of locating the 7 treasures should become much easier. As long as you come within a certain range of one of the 7 treasures, the stigmata will produce a response to notify you of it. If you happen to come across one of the 7 treasures that is damaged, the stigmata can also aid you in repairing it. Now that our part here is done, we will move to suppress the Endless Abyss. The fate of the entire continent will depend on you now. I pray that you will be able to gather the 7 treasures as soon as possible. System. Legendary Ranked Main Storyline Quest. 7 treasures accepted. Quest details. The 7 treasures have been scattered throughout the continent. Player is required to gather the 7 treasures within 2 years. Otherwise, the Endless Abyss will break through the War God's Temple suppression and plunge all inhabitants of God's domain into misery and suffering, turning the continent into the playground of darkness. If player is unable to complete this quest, player's level will drop by 30, all attributes will be permanently reduced by 70%, and all EXP gained will be reduced by 90%. The system really is ruthless. If I can't complete this quest, this account would definitely have to be scrapped. Fortunately, I have 2 years to complete it. Xueqi inwardly clicked his tongue when he read the system notification. However, just what is this stigmata thing? Xueqi wondered as there was nothing new on his body or in his bag. He then opened his status bar to take a look. As expected, there was an additional column labeled Stigmata there. Golden Stigmata automatically perceives the presence of the 7 treasures within a radius of 5,000 yards. Detect can be used once a day to search for the specific location of the 7 treasures within a radius of 50,000 yards. In addition, player will receive Stigmata's power, providing player with ignore levels plus 20 and all resistances plus 40. For every increase in 5 levels, all attributes of player will increase by 5 points, in addition to receiving 10 free attribute points and 10 free mastery points. Player will also receive the skill Omniscient Eyes. Omniscient Eyes. A pair of eyes that can see through everything and find out all information. Nothing is capable of hiding from the Omniscient Eyes. The Omniscient Eyes have a perception range of 100 yards. Duration. 1 minute. Cooldown. 10 minutes. Such amazing effects. Feng's excitement after looking at the effects of the golden stigmata was indescribable. For starters, the additional 40 points in all resistances meant that he could ignore most of the environmental factors of many terrains. He would also receive reduced damage from spells. When battling against magic-type monsters, he could easily take on the role of an M-Teeth. However, the most amazing part about the golden stigmata would still have to be the increase in attributes. The golden stigmata was unlike the abyssal blade, whereby Feng would receive 2 additional free attribute points every time he leveled up. However, the golden stigmata would provide Feng with an average of 7 basic attribute points per level, 2 points of which were even free attribute points. This was definitely a huge increase. Moreover, the golden stigmata also provided Feng with a powerful identification skill. This skill would be of significant help when used against dungeon bosses or during field battles. It seems the heavenly dragon's breath is already waving its hands at me. Feng revealed a faint smile. Originally, the heavenly dragon's breath's requirement of 120 points in intelligence had given Feng a major headache. Now, however, with the bonuses provided by the golden stigmata and his magic weapon, as long as he received his promotion to a Tier 1 swordsman, he could definitely equip the heavenly dragon's breath before he reached level 30. He would actually get to equip a fragmented legendary item before reaching level 30. If it were in the past, Feng would not even have dared to dream about it. Following which, Feng called out the exchange interface of the War God's Temple and began to carefully look through the treasures there. Chapter 298. Deep Pockets. Previously, Feng had focused his attention purely on clearing the trials. Even when he upgraded the Abyssal Blade to level 20, he had only picked out a random level 20 dark gold weapon. The War God's Temple was one of the strongest powers in God's domain. This was a fact that remained true from ancient times up to the present. Feng had been able to fully experience this truth simply by seeing the various big shots in the Eternal Throne take action. Hence, one could just imagine how wealthy the War God's Temple's treasury would be. As for this War God's Temple exchange system, players would automatically activate it after obtaining the first clear on a 100-man team dungeon. However, one would already require large amounts of War God's Temple reputation even to exchange for a fine gold item. In God's domain, reputation with the War God's Temple was infamous for being extremely hard to obtain, not to mention meeting the required reputation for exchanging an epic item. If not for his quest, Feng would not have the chance to exchange for an epic ranked item. He would not even have the chance to lay eyes on them. He would not get the chance to see the never-before-seen divine artifacts, either. I wonder what sort of divine artifacts are in the treasury of the War God's Temple? Feng's heart was filled with anticipation as he filtered the exchange window to display only divine artifacts. A total of 2 divine artifacts was shown. Luminous Starlight, divine rank, 2-handed staff. Equipment requirement: Strength 3000, Intelligence 8000. Required merit points: 200,000. Skyfrost Blizzard, divine rank, 2-handed spear. Equipment requirement: Strength 10,000, Intelligence 4000. Required merit points: 250,000. Although he could not see the exact attributes of these 2 items, just the merit points demanded and the equipment requirements of these 2 divine artifacts left Feng utterly speechless. Can a person really equip these divine artifacts? Feng had his doubts. It was simply unthinkable for a person to possess 10,000 strength. Even during his prime, Feng had not even been close to meeting such a requirement. After having his fill of looking at the divine artifacts, Feng filtered the window to display only epic ranked items. Immediately, an endless list of items appeared before him. A simple glance told Feng that there were more than 10,000 items listed, and he could not help but wish he could take them all to enrich his own guild warehouse. If Zero Wings Guild Warehouse had so many epic ranked items stored within it, then dominating the entire Star Moon Kingdom would not be a problem, let alone conquering White River City. However, this was only a passing thought. Feng currently had 6,800 merit points, and he could exchange for only a single epic ranked item at most. However, it was also not a simple task to choose a suitable item for himself out of these tens of thousands of items. For starters, let's forget about weapons. Armor should be a good place to start from, Feng thought. Presently, he already possessed a magic weapon, the Abyssal Blade. The dark gold-ranked Purgatory's shadow he now wielded was also sufficient for his current self. If he wished to further increase his strength, then he needed to replace some of the mysterious iron and secret silver-ranked equipment he was still using. Yet, when Xueqi looked at the long list of equipment, his mind was racked with indecision. However, Xueqi still managed to pick out a few good breastplates that caught his fancy. Not only did these breastplates offer large amounts of strength and agility, some even provided additional intelligence, an attribute that Xueqi was currently in need of. Meanwhile, the usage levels for these breastplates ranged between level 20 to level 80, and they all were epic equipment that could level up to level 100. One of these breastplates was called the Purple Fire Battle Armor, and it required 5,000 merit points. It was a breastplate that mainly focused on the strength attribute, in addition to providing a certain amount of intelligence. The other one was called Merciless and required 5,300 merit points. It was similarly a breastplate that mainly focused on the strength attribute, and likewise it provided a certain amount of intelligence. The final breastplate that caught Xueqi's fancy was a breastplate called the Carnage Chest Protector. It required 6,000 merit points to exchange for, and it provided a balanced amount of strength, agility and intelligence. The design of the breastplate was also very good, and it was also Xueqi's favorite out of the 3 breastplates. However, if he were to exchange for the Carnage Chest Protector, he would not be able to do much with his remaining merit points. Let's take a look at some other items for now. After some contemplation, Xueqi filtered the exchange window to display ornaments that had a minimum equipment requirement of level 20. The merit points of the War God's Temple were extremely precious, so he needed to be extra careful when spending them. After browsing through the list for some time, Xueqi suddenly discovered an item he was extremely familiar with. Space Ring. However, instead of being of mysterious iron rank, this space ring was of epic rank. It was capable of storing up to 2,000 slots of items and cost 4,500 merit points. However, it would simply be a luxury to spend 4,500 merit points on this item, and Xueqi was definitely not willing to waste his precious merit points to purchase it. Isn't this the ring mentioned in the legends? Why is it categorized under epic ranked items? Xueqi noticed another ring he was familiar with. 7 Luminaries Ring. Xueqi had done his fair share of research on the history of God's domain during his past life. The 7 Luminaries Ring was a ring crafted by one of the ancient gods, the Twilight Goddess. 7 formidable powers were sealed inside this ring, and each one of these 7 powers could match the power of a god. Meanwhile, the 7 Luminaries Ring allowed the simultaneous use of these 7 powers. Even a mere mortal would have the power to destroy heaven and earth when equipped with this ring. Rumor had it that the legendary god Slayer possessed the 7 Luminaries Ring, and it was precisely because of this ring that he had the power to kill gods. Is it a replica? Xueqi did not believe that the War God's Temple possessed the real 7 Luminaries Ring. The reason being, an epic ranked item would not be powerful enough to decimate heaven and earth. Even a divine artifact did not have that strength. According to Xueqi's understanding, the 7 Luminaries Ring was a true godly relic. However, even a replica was an extremely rare find. To put it bluntly, replicas were weaker copies of the real deal. Although the replica 7 Luminaries Ring would not possess the power to decimate heaven and earth, at the very least, it could still be used to beat some tigers and kill some wolves. It should still have the original features, albeit greatly watered-down versions of them. Xueqi then looked at the merit points required, discovering that the ring actually cost 8,000 merit points. It was worth almost half of a fragmented legendary item. Are you kidding me? Is this the brand effect? Xueqi couldn't help but inwardly curse the War God's Temple. It was simply a replica. The other epic ranked rings only cost 6,000 points, at most. So on what basis would a replica be worth 8,000 points? 8,000 merit points. It seems I won't be able to exchange for it, Xueqi sighed. Although he coveted the 7 Luminaries Ring greatly, he had only 6,800 merit points. Following which, after taking his time looking through the myriad items, he still did not find anything that he fancied. Ultimately, he ended up choosing the Carnage Chest Protector. As for the 7 Luminaries Ring, he could only slowly accumulate merit points and exchange for it in the future. System: 6,000 merit points are required to exchange for the Carnage Chest Protector. Current merit points in possession: 6,800. Do you wish to exchange? Xueqi immediately clicked yes. System. Player's reputation with the War God's Temple has reached 3,000 points. Player is allowed to pay 20% of the required merit points using gold coins. Do you wish to pay using gold coins? It can't be, right? I can also pay using gold coins? Xueqi grew ecstatic. He had hope of obtaining the 7 Luminaries ring now. Currently, he needed to pay 1,800 gold coins for 1,200 merit points. This meant that each merit point was equivalent to 1 gold 50 silvers. Such a price was much more expensive than just simply buying epic ranked items on the market, where one epic ranked item was worth only around 1,000 gold. If 6,000 merit points were converted to gold coins, that would be a total of 9,000 gold. This price was at least 8 to 9 times more expensive than the markets. The system was truly black heart. However, this was a rare chance for Xueqi. If he could pay a portion of the merit points required using gold coins, he would be more than willing to do so. Following which, Xueqi chose to exchange for the 7 Luminaries ring instead. 20% of 8,000 merit points would be 1,600 points, which would be 2,400 gold coins. At this stage of the game, average players would be glad just to have a few extra silver coins to spend, and spending 20 to 30 silver coins at once would be considered an extravagance. As for gold coins, average players might not even know what these things looked like. Currently, 1 gold coin could be sold for 11,000 credits. Meanwhile, 2,400 gold coins would be worth over 25 million credits. Even a first-rate guild would not spend so much money just to obtain an epic ranked item, not to mention spending 2,400 gold coins. If Aqua Rose were to find out about this matter, she would definitely label Xueqi a spendthrift. However, Xueqi chose to pay the 2,400 gold coins without hesitation. He had 5,000 gold on his person at this time, having originally intended to use this money to purchase a stall in Starmoon City. Now, though, doing so was no longer possible. After completing the exchange, a purple gold crystal ring appeared on Xueqi's palm. There were 7 different gems inlaid into the ring, and the entire ring itself exuded a faint purple aura. It looked absolutely luxurious and fascinating. Chapter 299. One word. When Xueqi received the ring, he could not help but grow excited. In the past, a legendary item had been sold for tens of millions of credits at the world auction. At that time, the news had thoroughly shocked the entire world. Many people felt that the person who purchased the legendary item was a complete fool. After all, it was simply an item inside a virtual world. It was nothing more than a data-generated item. Only a person whose head was caught in the door would spend so much money to purchase it. Now, if Xueqi converted the War God's Temple merit points and gold coins he had spent into credits, the total amount would be even higher than the price of the auctioned legendary item. More importantly, he had spent such a large sum just to obtain an epic item, which was 2 ranks lower than a legendary item. However, even if Xueqi were called a fool several hundred times over, he would still be willing to do what he had done without hesitation. He was only afraid that he would not get such a chance. Back then, countless people had ridiculed the person who purchased the legendary item as a big fool. Later on, however, that person became the guild leader of King's Return, Odin. King's Return was a super guild, and the territories it occupied surpassed even an empire. Meanwhile, as the guild leader of such an amazing guild, Odin was an existence that made everyone feel fear and respect. The wealth and status he possessed was simply unimaginable. Did anyone laugh at him after that? The answer was no. Instead, the target of people's ridicule shifted to the fool who had sold the legendary item in the first place. At that time, not to mention several tens of million, even if traded using a city with a population of several millions, it would still have been a losing transaction. Meanwhile, the 7 Luminaries ring was a godly relic mentioned in legends. Although the one Xueqi had was only a replica, replicas could still be divided into different categories. If one took a replica of a fine gold item and a replica of an epic item and placed them side by side, without even making an in-depth comparison, one could already tell which one was the better item. After all, there was already a huge gap between the calibers of the 2 items. Moreover, the higher the quality of the target of replication, the greater the difficulty in replicating it. One could not produce a replica simply by wishing for it. The difficulty of producing an epic item that was the replica of a godly relic was much higher than simply producing a normal epic item. The difficulty of doing so might even rival the difficulty of producing a legendary item. The person who produced this ring must be a truly amazing forging sage. If the materials and energy used were of higher quality, the final product might even have become a legendary item. Xueqi was a forger himself, so he naturally could tell just how amazing the forger that managed to produce the 7 Luminaries ring was. The replica of a godly relic would definitely not have been easy to produce. Even a Grandmaster forger would not be able to produce one. It would only be possible for a forging sage. 7 Luminaries ring, replica. Ring, epic rank. Level 20, level 80, current level, 23. Equipment requirement. Strength 200. Attributes will be adjusted according to user's level. Strength plus 45, agility plus 35, intelligence plus 35, endurance plus 30, vitality plus 30, damage plus 10%, maximum HP plus 15%, ignore levels plus 10, all skills plus 2 levels. All items level requirement reduced by 5 levels. Additional skill dash. 7 Luminaries aura. There are 7 different auras: earth, water, wind, fire, time, illusion, and space. Only one aura can be used each time, and there will be a cooldown of 1 minute when changing between auras. Aura of Earth. Level 1, requires 1 million EXP to upgrade to level 2. Defense increased by 30%. Damage taken reduced by 20%. Activatable skill dash. Absolute defense. Provides immunity to 7 attacks. Cooldown. 1 minute 30 seconds. Aura of Water. Level 1, requires 1 million EXP to upgrade to level 2. Received healing increased by 30%. Cast consumption reduced by 20%. Activatable skill dash. Life Bloom. Heal selected target for 10% HP every second for 30 seconds. Cooldown. 1 minute 30 seconds. Aura of Wind. Level 1, requires 1 million EXP to upgrade to level 2. Movement speed increased by 20%. Attack speed increased by 20%. Agility increased by 15%. Activatable skill dash. Wind Rider. Enables temporary flight and movement speed increase of 100% for 15 seconds. Cooldown. 2 minutes. Aura of Fire. Level 1, requires 1 million EXP to upgrade to level 2. Damage increased by 30%. Target's defense reduced by 20%. Activatable skill dash. Firestorm. Inflicts 500% damage within a range of 10 by 10 yards for 5 seconds. Cooldown. 5 minutes. Aura of Time. Level 1, requires 2 million EXP to upgrade to level 2. Cooldown of all skills reduced by 20%. Enemies within a 100-yard radius will have their movement speed and attack speed reduced by 20%, and cooldown of skills increased by 20%. Activatable skill dash. Absolute Time. Prevents enemies within a range of 50 by 50 yards from using any skills or tools for 20 seconds. Cooldown. 3 minutes. Aura of Illusion. Level 1, requires 2 million EXP to upgrade to level 2. All attributes increased by 20%. Enemies within a 100-yard radius will have all their attributes reduced by 20%. Activatable skill dash. Fantasy World. Immunity to all magic damage and 10% of magic damage received will be converted to healing to recover players' HP for 10 seconds. Cooldown. 3 minutes. Aura of Space. Level 1, requires 2 million EXP to upgrade to level 2. Immunity to all control and restricting effects. Activatable skill dash. Space Movement. Instantly move to any location within a radius of 300,000 yards. Cooldown. 10 minutes. As expected of a godly relic's replica. Even if it is only at epic rank, apart from the basic attributes it provides being inferior to a legendary item, its other aspects are much stronger. Xueqi's surprise reached its limits after he read the attributes of the 7 Luminaries ring. This was the first time Xueqi was seeing the exact abilities of the 7 Luminaries ring. At this moment, Xueqi finally understood why the legends had said that even an ordinary mortal would have the ability to decimate heaven and earth when in possession of the genuine Seven Luminaries ring. One could even kill gods with this ring. Meanwhile, the Seven Luminaries ring in Xueqi's hand was only a replica. It was also only at epic rank, and it was tens of thousands of miles away from being comparable to the genuine article. However, even if it was only an epic-ranked replica, in Xueqi's eyes, it was already a miniature godly relic. It could easily outshine any other epic item. It would be great if I could upgrade this epic-ranked Seven Luminaries ring to legendary rank. Xueqi could not help but start fantasizing. If he could raise the Seven Luminaries ring's rank to legendary, then its value would become immeasurable. At that time, only divine artifacts would be able to suppress it. After Xueqi equipped the Seven Luminaries ring, his attributes greatly increased. His intelligence reached 91 points. Only a small distance short of 120 points. I can use the Aura of Earth when acting as an MT, Aura of Water when acting as a healer, Aura of Wind when hunting or escaping, Aura of Fire when battling, Aura of Time and Aura of Illusion when fighting in a team battle, and Aura of Space when I'm in a hurry. This ring covers almost every possible situation. It truly is the most powerful epic item. Xueqi had mostly grasped the uses of the 7 auras in the Seven Luminaries ring. It really made one wonder just how powerful the genuine godly relic was. Just as Xueqi was fantasizing about the genuine godly relic, he suddenly thought of another matter. If he used the Aura of Space, he could still make it if he hurried to the Silverleaf Forest right now. After all, a distance of 300,000 yards could generally cover 2 regions. Xueqi could first teleport to Stream Fort from White River City. Afterwards, he only needed to pass through 4 regions in order to arrive at the Silverleaf Forest. Under normal circumstances, even if Xueqi ran with all his might, he would still need around 5 hours to travel across these 4 regions. However, now that Xueqi could instantly travel across 2 regions, he might even arrive at the Silverleaf Forest before Gentle Snow's reinforcements did. Thinking so, Xueqi immediately departed from the War God's Temple and headed towards the teleportation hall of Star Moon City. Chapter 300. Midway Interception. The Silverleaf Forest, also called the Silver Forest by players, was a place filled with monsters ranging from level 18 to level 25. It was a rich land. As to why it was called rich, it was because the monsters here were a great source for high-quality leather. These leathers were important materials used in the production of bags and leather armor. Moreover, the monsters here also dropped high-quality meat. Most importantly, however, there were a total of 14 field bosses present in this Silverleaf Forest. Field bosses were one of the main sources of income for guilds. Also, unlike team dungeons, which would reset only once every 3 days, field bosses respawned daily. The improvement these field bosses could bring to a guild's equipment was quite significant. It was also the reason why Fire Dance had led Zero Wings' core team here to kill field bosses. Now, however, the Silverleaf Forest swarmed with members of Dark Star. These players were grouped into smaller teams of a dozen or so players and larger teams with as many as 100 or so players. Meanwhile, each and every one of these players was currently out searching for members of Zero Wing. Master Tyrant, we need to speed up our operations. If we wait until Gentle Snow's people arrive, it will be difficult if we wish to wipe out Zero Wing's main force, Southwolf said as he looked at Lone Tyrant. For her to actually willingly send out reinforcements, it seems that woman really does have a deep relationship with Zero Wing. Lone Tyrant was slightly surprised. His lips then curled into a sneer as he said, "Even so, she is too late. We've already searched through the majority of this Silverleaf Forest. We've also tightly blockaded the 3 exits for this place. In addition, we've also placed a guild war order to seal off the entire Silverleaf Forest, so the bastards won't be able to simply return to the city using a return scroll. It won't be long before we will find them and get rid of them. However, even if they did use a return scroll and return to the city, their red names would get them killed by the guards the moment they arrived. They would also get locked up and lose their freedom for a long period of time. Such a penalty would be much worse than simply getting killed by us." Southwolf nodded in agreement. In order to deal with Zero Wing's main force this time, Dark Star had spared no effort, sending out all the elite members it had. Even Underworld had sent a team of Underworld guards into the fray. There were over 10,000 players participating in the hunt this time around, and of those, 6,000 were used to hinder Zero Wing's reinforcements. With its current power, Zero Wing definitely could not contend against these 6,000 players. However, South Wolf himself could not help but admit that Zero Wing indeed possessed some real ability. Even when they were ambushed, they had still reacted in an extremely calm manner. They had immediately launched a counterattack and bravely fought back. Moreover, many within their ranks possessed relatively good techniques. This time, in order to kill the few hundred elite members of Zero Wing, Dark Star had lost over 1,000 members. South Wolf found this result simply unbelievable. The reason being, of the 1,000+ members that died, over 300 were elite members of Dark Star. Their fighting techniques could definitely be considered first-rate. The most unbelievable part was that even a few members of the Underworld Guards had been killed by Zero Wing. However, that was it. So what if Zero Wing was top-notch when it came to dungeon raiding? In a field battle, numbers triumphed over everything else. This was an unchangeable fact for all games. It's a pity that we didn't manage to locate Black Flame or Yi Feng. If we could deal with them as well, we can thoroughly remove Zero Wing's name from White River City. We'll see if they dare act presumptuously in front of young Master Feng again. South Wolf's hatred of Sure Feng had never dissipated in the slightest, and he had always intended to fulfill the words he had spoken before. However, now that they were about to get rid of Zero Wing's main force, the anger in his heart had lessened slightly. Relax. Those two will soon be finished as well. In White River City, nobody can protect them. Even the elites led by Gentle Snow won't be able to do so, Lone Tyrant said proudly. How so? Asked South Wolf somewhat surprised. If Zero Wing can make allies, why can't Dark Star do so as well? Lone Tyrant softly chuckled. Allies. This was the first time South Wolf was hearing about this. Of course you wouldn't know about this matter. This is a heavily guarded secret of Dark Star. I made this alliance precisely to forestall Gentle Snow's intervention, and also to prevent them from joining together with Zero Wing to deal with us, Lone Tyrant said pridefully, as if he had full control over everything. If Gentle Snow wishes to bring reinforcements over, she'll have to first see if she can arrive at the Silverleaf Forest's entrance. Regarding the matter of exterminating Zero Wing, this time, you can rest assured. You just need to remind Vice Leader Feng of the agreement we made. Guild Leader Tyrant can rest assured on this matter. As long as you complete the task this time, we will definitely deliver the 100 million credits and weekly funding of 150 gold that we promised. South Wolf laughed. Fine, as long as you guys don't forget your promise. Lone Tyrant nodded in satisfaction. In truth, he did not place much importance on Zero Wing. When Feng Xianyang had asked him to deal with Black Flame and Zero Wing, Lone Tyrant had simply agreed, not giving the request much thought. After all, Lone Tyrant had never acknowledged Zero Wing as Dark Star's opponent. His true enemy was only one person, Gentle Snow. However, the capital injection offered by Feng Xianyang this time around was quite attractive, so Lone Tyrant naturally yielded to his request. With this capital injection, he would be able to contend against Gentle Snow for White River City on an equal footing. As an added bonus, he could also gain plenty of good equipment from Zero Wing. Guild Leader, we found them, an assassin suddenly said in the team chat. Good. We'll head over there immediately. Lone Tyrant softly chuckled. He then gave a command through the guild channel, saying, Everyone, hurry over to that location. We mustn't let them escape this time. The precious equipment on their bodies are waving their hands at us. Immediately, all the members of Dark Star that had come to the Silverleaf Forest cheered loudly. They had long since been drooling over Zero Wing's precious equipment. What secret silver equipment? Many members of Zero Wing's main force possessed fine gold equipment, and some even dark gold equipment. Meanwhile, at one of the dense thickets of the Silverleaf Forest, space suddenly ruptured. One man walked out from this rupture in space, and this person was none other than Sure Feng, who had arrived using space movement. Space movement sure is convenient. Too bad it has a slightly long cooldown. Sure Feng was liking the 7 luminaries ring more and more now. Sure Feng had taken less than an hour to get here from Star Moon City, even arriving ahead of Gentle Snow. Just as Sure Feng was about to contact Fire Dance, a call came from Gentle Snow. We got ambushed by 500 or so elite players, So it may be a little later before we can reach the Silverleaf Forest, Gentle Snow apologized. Ambushed. Xueqi was surprised. To actually muster so much manpower, that lone tyrant sure came prepared. We weren't ambushed by players from Dark Star. Gentle Snow shook her head. No. Is it Underworld then? Xueqi couldn't help but feel amazed by Underworld's strength. It definitely should not be easy to field so many players for this hunt. Yet, they were actually able to deploy another 500+ elites to hinder Gentle Snow. The organization known as Underworld really possessed a powerful framework. No. They're elites from World Dominators. My guess is that Dark Star has already joined hands with World Dominators. Gentle Snow then suggested, it won't be possible for my side to break through anytime soon. If your reinforcements really can't break through, you all should just give up. If we wait until World Dominators' troops head over there and carry out a pincer attack against you, then Zero Wing will truly be finished. I know. Xueqi fully understood the situation now. Dark Star wasn't planning on just giving a huge blow to Zero Wing this time. Instead, they intended to wipe out Zero Wing, removing it as a threat completely. Chapter 301, Fangs. The reinforcements from Ouroboros definitely won't make it now. Zero Wing's forces had also been blocked at the outer perimeter of the Silverleaf Forest. According to Xueqi's understanding, Dark Star currently had over 3,000 members searching inside the Silverleaf Forest, including practically all of Dark Star's elites. The 6,000 or so players blockading the outer perimeter were merely cannon fodder. If this stalemate continued, World Dominators might succeed in carrying out a pincer attack with Dark Star, annihilating Zero Wing's forces. Aqua, would it be possible to break through on your side? Xueqi contacted Aqua Rose and asked. With the current numbers we have at hand, definitely not. However, I've already mentioned this matter in the guild channel and have sent for more members to hurry over. We should be able to gather another 3,000 members in half an hour. The level and quality of equipment of our guild members are much higher than Dark Star's, so as long as we can join with these 3,000 members, we can break through their blockade, Aqua Rose said confidently. She had faith in their guild's combat prowess. Although Zero Wing had far fewer members than Dark Star, with Dark Star having well over 30,000 members, there wasn't much of a difference in the number of elite players each guild possessed. Of Dark Star's 30,000 members, more than 10,000 were newbies around level 10. Meanwhile, the elites that managed to reach level 16 only numbered around 6,000. On the other hand, despite recruiting only a small amount of players, their member count only hovering slightly above 5,000, there were actually over 4,000 elites in Zero Wing who were over level 16. If other guilds discovered this fact, they would be shocked. This was also why Aqua Rose had maintained an optimistic view of Zero Wing's future. As long as Zero Wing could assemble these remaining 3,000 members, they could easily deal with Dark Star's 6,000 extras. However, it would be impossible for them to engage in an all-out war against Dark Star. After all, there was still a big gap in the total number of elites each guild possessed. On top of that, Dark Star still had over 10,000 extras. Even if their combat prowess was weak, they could still overwhelm and kill Zero Wing's elites using the advantage of numbers. I understand. World Dominators is currently hindering Gentle Snow's group. You should stop trying to break through into the Silverleaf Forest from your side. Instead, turn around and begin a pincer attack on World Dominators. Let's take this chance to kick them out of White River City. Xueqi issued his commands after some thought. However, Xueqi's words had shocked Aqua Rose into a daze. Guild leader, we're here to save people. Wouldn't it be a bad idea to start a war with World Dominators right now? Aqua Rose asked worriedly. World Dominators was a first-rate guild. Although the main force of World Dominators was not based in White River City, they still should not be taken lightly. Just like Ouroboros, even though their main force was based outside of White River City, they were still the top guild in White River City. Moreover, wasn't World Dominators similarly one of the top 6 guilds in White River City? If Zero Wing headed over and attacked the members of World Dominators right now, it would be a declaration of war. Dealing with Dark Star was already a huge headache. If they had to face another one of the top 6 guilds in White River City, how could Zero Wing continue mingling in White River City? It'll be all right. Just go. Remember, the moment you arrive, immediately use a guild war order to seal the location. Don't allow anyone from World Dominators to use a return scroll to leave that area, and make sure you kill every single one of those bastards. Teach them that there is a price to pay if they wish to take advantage of Zero Wing. Xueqi growled murderously. Although Xueqi advocated a low-profile and secretive development, that did not mean that he would receive enemies with a smile, even when said enemy banged on their front door. Whether it was Darkstar or World Dominators, if they really thought Zero Wing was a sickly animal that they could easily bully, they should get ready to pay a heavy price. But what do we do about Fire Dance and the others? There are still more than 50 players with them, and they are all the cream of the crop of our guild. Now that they are all red names, if they die, our guild will suffer tremendous losses. Although Aqua Rose could discern Xueqi's rage and killing intent from the tone of his voice, she still tried to dissuade him. I'll save Fire Dance and the others, Xueqi answered with absolute confidence. Aqua Rose sighed at Xueqi's answer. However, she no longer chose to pursue the matter, and instead, she said, fine, but as the guild leader of Zero Wing, don't you think you should say a few words to your fellow guild members as well? You haven't expressed your intentions since Darkstar declared war against us. Although nobody in the guild has said anything about it, considering the weight of this incident and the declaration of war against World Dominators, how can you stay silent? After the war with Darkstar began, both murderous intentions and excitement swept through everyone in Zero Wing. Many in the guild had expressed their eagerness for vengeance, speaking in the guild channel about how they were going to teach the bastards from Darkstar a lesson and show Darkstar know how amazing Zero Wing was. However, as the intensity of the battle between both guilds grew, and the number of deaths increased, the atmosphere in Zero Wing became heavy. Even though they had fought for so long, they still hadn't managed to break past Darkstar's blockade around the Silverleaf Forest. The number of dead Zero Wing elites inside the Silverleaf Forest also grew as time passed. Hence, it was inevitable that Zero Wing's momentum would falter. At this point, most of the Zero Wing members had already lost their motivation to continue fighting, not to mention carrying out a pincer attack on World Dominators. Xueqi, of course, was aware of Aqua Rose's concerns. However, compared to just speaking through the guild channel, Xueqi had taken more decisive action and directly uploaded a post to the official forums. Darkstar, today you've dared to send tens of thousands of players to hunt the hundreds of players of Zero Wing. My Zero Wing guild will return this slight 100-fold. Even if we're down to our very last breath, we will massacre your 30,000 members as payback. The name of Black Flame, the chief forger of Starmoon Kingdom, had long since spread throughout the Starmoon Kingdom. Moreover, Zero Wing was also the first guild to own a guild residence. The moment this post uploaded, it immediately garnered the attention of the residents of Starmoon Kingdom. Crap! Are they starting an all-out war? I show my support for Zero Wing. Zero Wing is as amazing as expected. Even though there are only several hundred, Darkstar actually had to send tens of thousands of players to hunt them. Does anybody know the final result? I heard that Zero Wing had lost over 300 members to Darkstar already, and there are still a few dozen being hunted down. On the other hand, Darkstar has already lost over 1,000 members. Right now, every player in White River City is discussing this matter. Amazing! With just several hundred players on their side, even when faced with more than 10,000 players, they can still kill over 1,000 players. Dozens are still alive, too. I also want to join Zero Wing and become an expert. I despise Darkstar. If they can, they should duel Zero Wing fairly. What's so great about using numbers to bully someone? I am one of the members of Zero Wing that had been surrounded and killed. You guys should have seen how amazing our guild Sister Dance and Brother Black fought. Sister Dance weaved across thousands of players, killing over 100 Darkstar members in a row. Brother Black's spells instantly vaporized hundreds of Darkstar members the moment it landed. I have a video recording of the battle, so come to Zero Wing's forum section if you want to have a look at it. After Xueqi uploaded his post, the entire forum exploded in a storm of comments. The players that had only recently started playing God's Domain also started paying attention to Zero Wing as a result of this commotion, especially after seeing the battlefield containing thousands of players. In comparison, the battle scenes they usually saw in movies were boring. The scene where countless stars crashed onto the battlefield, destroying the land and instantly turning hundreds of players into ash, especially stunned them. They couldn't help their boiling blood after watching this scene. After watching this video, many players started considering joining Zero Wing. Chapter 302. Strong Capital. Xueqi had used the name of Black Flame when he uploaded his post. Hence, just a few minutes after the post went live, it had already received a massive amount of visitors. The number of replies easily passed 10,000. Shortly after, the post had been automatically pinned at the top of the forums by the game officials, and there was also an additional bright red warp tag on the post. This single word was eye-catching. Meanwhile, due to Xueqi's post, the originally crestfallen guild members' fighting spirits immediately reignited, and they hungered for Dark Star's death. Moreover, the video of Dark Star's ambush of Zero Wing had also shocked its viewers. The video allowed everyone to understand that even players could become so powerful. When the stars of light descended, the scene seemed as if the world was coming to an end, and within an instant, hundreds of players had been vaporized. Even players outside of the spell's damage range were not spared as the wind generated by the spell's impact sent them flying. Seeing the power of this skill, everyone finally understood why Blackie had such a high level. While everyone else struggled to kill a single monster, Blackie could simply lure several hundred monsters and kill all of them with a single move. How could anybody hope to compare to such a leveling speed? After watching this video, countless players started dreaming of the day that they, too, could possess such power. Such a skill was far more useful than any piece of quality equipment. Dark Star, just you wait. I will kill everyone who tries to block our way. That's right. Brother Black and Sister Dance are waiting for us right now. How can we be so shameful? Aren't they just 6,000 monkeys? Even if I have to die 10 times over, I will extinguish Dark Star. The members of Zero Wing all released spirited battle cries as they glared at the members of Dark Star blocking their path. As long as Aqua Rose gave the command, they would charge and take action. However, just as they turned their gazes to Aqua Rose, Zero Wing's vice leader, Xueqi's voice suddenly dominated the guild channel. I'm sure everyone is clear about what has happened today. Dark Star has declared all-out war against us, and they wish to wipe our names from White River City. Although we, Zero Wing, have just started our journey and the member count of our guild cannot compare to the other guilds in White River City, Dark Star has actually started a war with us, thinking that we are easy to bully. What do you all think we should do about this? Kill them all. That's right. Why should we fear fighting back? Now let's show those bastards that, if they wish to swallow us whole, they should prepare to lose a few teeth. Since everyone is going to try their best, as the guild leader, I cannot be stingy. Before the battle, I sent for someone to retrieve some battle tools stored inside the guild warehouse. Everyone should now look for Vice Leader Aqua Rose for your share. Also, for those who participate in today's battle, you will gain 10 guild points for each enemy you kill. Those who manage to accumulate 10 kills will be rewarded one piece of secret silver equipment, while those who kill 50 will get a piece of fine gold equipment. If you manage to kill 100, you will even receive a private room in the guild residence. Even if you die in battle, you will still receive 10 guild points as compensation. The moment Xueqi finished his monologue, everyone's hearts beat fervently, and their eyes glowed with excitement. Zero Wing's administration was very thorough, and one could only use guild points to exchange for items from the guild warehouse. However, it was extremely difficult for members to earn guild points. If converted to coins, each guild point was worth around 30 copper. Meanwhile, trading them for a level 10 bronze equipment required 30 guild points, which would be 9 silver coins. Currently, level 10 bronze equipment only sold for around 7 to 8 silver coins on the market. To put it simply, it was not a worthwhile exchange. It was also for this reason that another batch of players had withdrawn from the guild. In fact, this was something Xueqi and Aqua Rose had already taken into consideration. If the guild sold equipment cheaper than market price, then many members would try to take advantage of this fact to trade for guild equipment to resell elsewhere. They could then use the money to buy guild points again. Hence, the high prices were set to prevent an outflow of guild equipment and items. However, after the emergence of the guild residence and the additional benefit of renting private rooms, everyone in the guild no longer had a disfavorable opinion of the guild's administration. On the contrary, they all felt that the administration was extremely fair. Private rooms were something ordinary players dared not even dream of obtaining in other guilds. After all, the land in White River City and each guild residence could only contain a limited number of private rooms. Meanwhile, the higher-ups of the guild would surely occupy these rooms. Ordinary members would never be able to enjoy this benefit. Yet, Zero Wing had defied all expectations and actually opened up a few private rooms for ordinary members. Ordinary members of Zero Wing could actually rent these private rooms for a low cost of only 2 guild points per day. Although the price was slightly higher than staying a night at a hotel, unlike hotels, one could accumulate double EXP buffs from private rooms. With this feature, it was definitely worth spending a few extra copper coins. The members present in this battle also heard of the benefits provided by other guilds. Although other guilds also provided rewards and compensation to its members for killing and dying in battle, the amount offered was far worse than Fangs. 10 guild points equaled 3 silver coins. There were 3,000 members participating in this battle. If each one of them managed to kill one enemy, the total guild points awarded would be the equivalent of 9,000 silver coins or 90 gold. This was a massive sum of money. Moreover, Xueqi also promised to compensate for each guild member's death. At the very least, he would have to spend over 100 gold. If converted to credits, 100 gold would be worth over 1 million. This situation reaffirmed everyone's confidence in Zero Wing's financial resources and background. With such great benefits, powerful financial resources, and most importantly, such an amazing guild leader, was it possible for such a guild not to grow powerful? Even if I have to die, I'll still drag at least 10 guys with me. Humph. Don't you have any ambition? Didn't you hear the guild leader say that he would reward those who managed to get 100 kills with their own private room? You have to be capable of actually doing that first. Have you not seen how easily Brother Black and Sister Dance managed it? The momentum pushing the guild members to kill their enemies was stronger than ever now. Although the guild would only rent out, not sell, any of the private rooms, one could imagine how much a private room would cost. It was definitely not something worth a measly 1,000 guild points. Although their chances of actually killing 100 people were slim, there was still a small possibility. Naturally, they would fight for that glimmer of hope. Everyone, come to me to receive the frost grenades. Each person will only get 2. Party leaders will get 3 frost grenades and 1 tier 0 attack or defense magic scroll. Team leaders and vice-team leaders will receive 5 frost grenades and 1 tier 1 magic scroll. After Xueqi finished his speech, Aqua Rose started distributing the supportive tools to every guild member. In order to display Zero Wing's might to everyone in Starmoon Kingdom, Xueqi bled his pockets dry this time. He retrieved all the supportive tools from inside the guild warehouse for this battle. The moment everyone received the supportive tools, everyone felt even more certain of their victory over Dark Star. Just by arming all of them with a single frost grenade, they could easily force Dark Star's 6,000 members to eat a huge loss. Adding in the control effect of the frost grenades, their chances of defeating these 6,000 players increased by at least 30%. Vice Leader Aqua, how should we fight? We'll all listen to your commands. That's right. With these tools of war, I can easily kill over 10 people and earn a ton. 100 people. Here I come. Let's hope that those bastards don't run away. Everyone started joking around as they felt confident in defeating Dark Star now. Since everyone is ready, follow me. Aqua Rose nodded. The next moment, however, she turned around and ran in the opposite direction of the Silverleaf Forest. Chapter 303. Hold Nothing Back. Deep inside the Silverleaf Forest. Boss, I don't know what's going on with Zero Wing, but they've retreated from Silverleaf Forest's entrance. An assassin who used stealth to stalk Zero Wing's troops reported in the team chat. It seems that they're giving up on trying to get in. Ha ha ha. That black flame made such a bold statement. Yet, now, he's fleeing with his tail between his legs? If we upload this news to the forums, he will definitely become a laughingstock. South Wolf laughed loudly when he received this report. Lone Tyrant's lips curled into a sneer as well, saying contemptuously, Zero Wing is just a gathering of nobodies. Since the very beginning, they have never stood a chance at victory. They should consider themselves lucky. If they waited until we finished wiping out Zero Wing's core team, we would have turned around and begun a pincer attack on them with World Dominators. At that time, even their remaining 3,000 to 4,000 members would have no hope, and Zero Wing would utterly disappear from White River City. Guild Leader Tyrant is as amazing as expected. It turns out that you had such a plan readied as well. No wonder you are an expert capable of competing with Gentle Snow over White River City. Not only do you possess extraordinary strength, but your intellect is also at the top of White River City. South Wolf flattered as he came to a realization. As long as you can remove Zero Wing's name from White River City, the only obstacle in your way will be Ouroboros. However, with Dark Star and World Dominators working together, even the team led by Gentle Snow would no longer pose a threat. At that time, Guild Leader Tyrant would become the true overlord of White River City. It's still too early to make such claims. Lone Tyrant chuckled as pleasure filled his heart. He then continued, saying, ultimately, Gentle Snow is a well-known expert and leader in the virtual gaming world. I'm afraid that I'll need more strength before I can chase her out of White River City. When the time comes, it will also depend on whether or not Underworld plays its part. Ha ha ha. Guild Leader Tyrant can rest assured. As long as Dark Star possesses a high chance of becoming the overlord of White River City, Underworld will invest greatly in it. When the time comes, Underworld will send even more experts to help Dark Star solidify its position as overlord. South Wolf laughed, answering with certainty. With your words, South Wolf, I can rest assured. Lone Tyrant laughed with South Wolf. Currently, confidence regarding Dark Star's future filled Lone Tyrant. Now that Zero Wing has given up on saving Fire Dance and the core members, although I pity them slightly, we should still quickly end their lives. When South Wolf thought of Fire Dance's sexy body, a lecherous smile unconsciously appeared on his face. Elsewhere, Fire Dance and her group were currently in a very precarious situation. Players from Dark Star had them surrounded, and although they had constantly carved out a path of bodies, they could not use return scrolls to escape. Dark Star had the Silverleaf Forest under siege, and all exits were blocked. If this situation continued, they would, sooner or later, lose their lives. However, they could not afford to die. At this moment, there were only 30+ players remaining in their team, and they all were red names. As for herself and Blackie, their names were already close to turning black now. If they died, losing 3 or 4 levels would only be a small matter. The most crucial point was that they could not afford the loss of their equipment. Sister Fire Dance, what are we going to do now? The bastards from Dark Star have discovered our location again, Lonely Snow asked. At this moment, he appeared to be in quite a sorry state. After being surrounded and attacked over a dozen times, his willpower had started to falter as well. Unfortunately, no matter what they did, they could not find a way to escape from Dark Star. Let's retreat first, then talk. Aqua Rose and the others are currently breaking through the entrance now. Moreover, they also have a large stock of supportive tools, so they can definitely break past Dark Star's blockade. We just need to hold on for a little while longer before we're rescued. Fire Dance had also racked her mind, trying to think of a way to escape. However, Dark Star simply had too many players. No matter how they tried to run, another group of players always waited for them. If not for the fact that their equipment and techniques were so impressive, they would have long since died. Just as everyone was desperately running for their lives, Xueqi contacted Fire Dance and suddenly joined the team. Guild Leader! Guild Leader! You're finally here! A glimmer of hope immediately flared in Blackie's heart when he noticed Xueqi join the team. Blackie's opinion of Xueqi had reached blind worship long ago, and he believed that there was nothing that Xueqi could not accomplish. In fact, Blackie wasn't alone in having such an opinion. Everyone in the core team thought so as well. Meanwhile, the originally gloomy atmosphere instantly dispersed upon Xueqi's arrival. Guild Leader, you're even more amazing than the Fountain of Life. By simply joining the team, you have caused everyone's spirits to recover instantly. Their fighting powers have doubled. Fire Dance joked. Ha ha ha, I never knew I had such an effect. Xueqi laughed. They all could not help but laugh with him. Instantly, the atmosphere relaxed. How are things on your side? Xueqi asked. Dark Star has us forced into a corner, and it's practically impossible for barge through any of the exits. At most, I think we have another half an hour before we'll have to make a final stand against them. Fire Dance gave Xueqi a brief explanation of their current position. Meanwhile, as a veteran of the battlefield, Xueqi quickly grasped the general situation. If Fire Dance and her group faced Dark Star's 3,000 players in direct combat, the conclusion would be obvious. Even if they had Xueqi with them, the result would be the same. After a long moment of silence, "I understand. Head to these coordinates. I'll meet you guys there," Xueqi said. Now that Fire Dance's group had been forced to such a corner, even Xueqi could not turn the tides. Dark Star had 3,000 players fighting for them, not just 1 or 200. At this stage of the game, most players should have already learned quite a few skills, and of them, there would definitely be a few life-saving skills. Furthermore, their fighting techniques would have improved greatly. It was no longer possible for Xueqi to slaughter them by the hundreds as he had with Martial Union. Fortunately, Xueqi was very familiar with the Silverleaf Forest. After giving it some thought, he concluded that there was only one location Fire Dance and the others could head to survive. The chances for survival was less than 30%. However, a 30% chance of survival was far better than none at all. After all, if they faced Dark Star's 3,000-strong army, they would die 10 out of 10 times. Hopefully, Aqua Rose can take action quickly. Otherwise, we really will suffer a total defeat. Following which, Xueqi disconnected his call with Fire Dance. He then activated the 7 Luminaries Ring space movement once more, teleporting to the meeting location that he gave Fire Dance's group. Although Guild War orders could seal off the usage of teleportation scrolls, they were completely useless against the power of the 7 Luminaries Ring. On the gravel road leading to the Silverleaf Forest, the players from World Dominators had already started battling the players from Ouroboros. Throughout their battle, both sides had constantly sent for more reinforcements, involving more and more players in the fray. Both sides were first-rate guilds with extraordinary backgrounds. To hinder Gentle Snow's advance, World Dominators had sent over 10,000 players to this fight. Meanwhile, Gentle Snow had even more players on her side. Currently, her army had increased to over 14,000 players. The intensity of the battle between these two guilds far outstripped the battle between Dark Star and Zero Wing. This massive encounter had shocked many players in White River City. Just what was happening in White River City? Why were 4 of the top 6 guilds in White River City battling it out against each other? Moreover, it wasn't just a minor skirmish between guilds. These 4 guilds had actually started a full-fledged war against each other, where only one side would rest when the other was obliterated. Such a situation was simply unimaginable in other cities. Players were still in the initial stages of God's Domain, and currently, every guild in God's Domain fully occupied themselves with raiding dungeons and development. Yet, these 4 guilds in White River City actually dared to start a full-fledged war. Regardless of which side won or lost, they would all be losers in God's Domain. Snow, this war is getting out of hand. Both sides have already incurred over 1,000 fatalities. If this situation continues, Emperor's Light and the Assassin's Alliance might be tempted to take advantage of the situation. I think we should retreat for now. After fighting for so long, we have fulfilled our duty to Zero Wing, Zhao Yueru urged as she looked at Gentle Snow, who currently issued commands. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.